Chapter 1185. Transform into Magic Dragon. These words seemed to contain some sort of power that caused Gu Qingshan's spirit to feel refreshed. If I could truly become as strong as Magic Dragon, I wouldn't need to spend so much time and effort searching for all sorts of favorable factors. I can just fight against the Soul Shrieker first before anything else. The information I get from direct combat is far more valuable and reliable than any other method. If I can transform into Magic Dragon, Gu Qingshan would feel much more confident. At that time, even if I can't win against the Soul Shrieker, I would at least be able to escape. Then Gu Qingshan clenched his fist and began to think about breaking through. The power of Magic Dragon is so immense that I can only quickly absorb it by breaking through. At this point, there's no need to think about returning to the Bramble Bird Kingdom. Breaking through right now is the right thing to do. Gu Qingshan took out a cushion, lit a stick of spirit incense, prepared some pills, then slowly paced around the ship. He recalled all of his experiences ever since he started cultivating, as well as the many mysteries of swordsmanship and Tao, confirming and summarizing them. The Yama King realm doesn't have early, middle, or late realms, there is only one realm. And cultivators at Mahasvara King realm are said to be unimaginable, incomparable to a Yama King realm cultivator. The Mahasvara King realm is known as the Heavenly King wherever he goes. Above this realm is the Sumer Lord realm. None of the cultivation worlds within the 900 million world layers had any written records of this realm. People only know of the term Sumer Lord for cultivators. But there isn't any detailed information about Sumer Lord. There are only a few unsubstantiated rumors. Frowny Face, the Mahasvara King, has 48 dependents, while the Sumer Lord has 120 followers. Both of them were summoned by prayers without asking. From this point of view, it was easy for people to think about what exactly dependents and followers were. There was another question. What would happen if a female cultivator managed to become a Mahasvara King or a Sumer Lord? People couldn't help but think about this, but there was also an inexplicable meaning to it. Through word of mouth, this rumor quickly spread throughout the 900 million world layers. Even Ji Luo wanted to be the first to speak to Gu Qingshan, wanting to be her dependent. As for what exactly happened between Mahasvara King and a Sumer Lord, no one knew. It was strange. Gu Qingshan had a conclusion about this. In the bygone era, a human from a parallel world escaped to the space vortex and built a world here. After something happened to Magic Dragon, they left in a hurry. After that, the Protoss replaced them and continued to create the world. Because the divine race wanted to rule over the primordial heaven realm, and the divine race themselves only had the strength of a paragon realm cultivator, they had destroyed all knowledge regarding how to break through to the next realm. From then on, the cultivators were only left with some scattered rumors. For example, the Yama heavenly realm was a tribulation of good karma. For example, the dependents and followers of Mahasvara King and Sumer Lord. True knowledge wasn't passed down within the 900 million world layers of the space vortex. From the looks of it, the strength of the living beings of the 900 million world layers has been completely suppressed. Gu Qingshan's thoughts turned. Perhaps, only those parallel worlds have complete cultivator inheritances. Gu Qingshan continued to ponder. Within the 900 million world layers, all cultivators know about the existence of the Yama heavenly realm, but no one has ever reached it. Because of that, the cultivators I met at the Yama heavenly realm most likely didn't come from the 900 million world layers of the space vortex. They came from the parallel worlds outside of the space vortex. Those were truly naturally formed worlds. Then, how can the living beings of the 900 million world layers break through the shackles of the divine race and continue to grow stronger? The eternal abyss is a shortcut. But the eternal abyss is too exclusive. As soon as they can't adapt to the power of the abyss, they will immediately die. In the past, when Lin and her companions explored the abyss, Other than herself, who adapted to the power of the abyss and survived, all of her companions died. Gu Qingshan shook her head. The abyss isn't the best path to become stronger. Did the bygone era humans leave behind any inheritances? Other than Lin, only the strongest combatant of the bygone era left behind a dance for himself. In the old man's words, this dance was the greatest discovery they had made in the space turbulence. Because of that, the living being's sacrificial dance wasn't their inheritance. If that's the case, the bygone era human's inheritance was cut off. What a headache. Then, is there a way to make the living beings of the void grow stronger? Gu Qingshan began to recall everything that she went through during the Age of Old. The divine race shouldn't have the ability to tamper with order. The Soul Shrieker was wary of order, so it destroyed order in the Age of Old. But I managed to save Lady Black Sea from a fragment of a parallel world. But Lady Black Sea was once again killed by the Soul Shrieker in the world of the Spire Guardians. At the time, she lost a lot of her powers, and even her card was left behind in Calming Soul Country. This also proved how wary the Soul Shrieker was of her. That's why saving Lady Black Sea and activating Worlds Apocalypse Online Human Legion was the correct path for all living beings to grow stronger. Other than that, if they could go to the real worlds and search for high-leveled cultivation scriptures, magic manuscripts, martial arts scriptures, that would also be a solution. But no one knew how to go there. 2 paths. Activate a Worlds Apocalypse Online Human Legion, or find a way to search for scriptures in parallel worlds. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit and couldn't help but feel a bit fortunate. I have the power of the magic dragon, so I can skip these 2 paths and break through first. The only problem right now is that I've offended the Wraith realm. A heaven's tribulation is a very troublesome matter to begin with, so if the Wraiths come for revenge at this time, it would become even more dangerous. But I can't just not break through just because I'm afraid of running into the Wraiths. The longer I wait, the more prepared the other party will be. I might as well break through right now. The Wraith realm might not even be able to react in time. At this point, Gu Qingshan felt that his condition had been adjusted to its peak. He sat down on the cushion, took out a pill, put it in his mouth, and officially began his breakthrough. Protective thought, aura forgetfulness. Inner sight fused with the void, disregarding the birth and death of all things, and settled down. A black stream of air manifested around Gu Qingshan's body, and quickly spread throughout the entire ship. The power of the magic dragon. It manifested as a black stream of air, then slowly turned into a vast tidal wave of power. The pure essence of the magic dragon's power flowed back and forth within the tidal wave, slowly turning into a source of power that strengthened Gu Qingshan's body, soul, and spirit bit by bit. For the immense power of the magic dragon, this transformation was extremely slow and minute. On the contrary, Gu Qingshan felt that the speed at which he was becoming stronger was too fast. It felt like he was riding a wild horse that had broken free from its reins, galloping at full speed towards the path to heaven. Before he knew it, an hour had gone by. Gu Qingshan could feel the speed at which he was becoming stronger slowly slowing down. This wasn't because he had used up too much of the power of the magic dragon, but rather because too much of his power had gathered at a certain point, unable to break through any further. Indeed, this was the peak of the Yama King realm. After this step, the Mahasvara heaven retribulation would arrive. Gu Qingshan regained his composure, held his breath, and charged forward with all his might. His power abruptly surged, immediately triggering the origin of law within the void of space. Lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Yua. Your strength has already reached the upper limit of the Yama King realm, and it's still growing. You are breaking through to Mahasvara King realm. A special attention, the system will provide a piece of information that has never been provided within the 900 million world layers of the void. The Mahasvara tribulation is a joint tribulation with the Sumeru Lord tribulation. This tribulation transcends the limits of time and space. It will be carried out at the same time as the cultivators of the various cultivation world. The degree of danger is far greater than before. Remember this. Take care of yourself. Don't let your guard down. Gu Qingshan's heart skipped a beat. What did that mean? He was clearly transcending the Mahasvara heavenly tribulation, so why was the Mount Meru tribulation involved? But the heavenly tribulation didn't give him time to think. In 5 seconds, the Mahasvara tribulation will descend. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The carefree heavenly tribulation has officially begun. An invisible law fell on Gu Qingshan from the void of space. In a split second, Gu Qingshan disappeared from the ship. Chapter 1186. What's this turtle shell used for? It can be used for divination, or as a defensive treasure tool. How many spirit stones? 100,000. It's yours. That's too expensive. Your turtle shell can only be used for divination. We're both people of status here. Who would use a turtle shell for defense? 95,000, no less. 93,000 at most. I'll buy it. Deal. The two cultivators exchanged the turtle shell and spirit stones, both happy. Gu Qingshan looked at this thoughtfully. He just arrived not too long ago. The surroundings were a boiling cauldron of voices and cultivators haggling over prices everywhere. It was extremely lively. So the Mahasvara King Realm Tribulation is for business? As Gu Qingshan's gaze swept through the entire open-air market, his expression turned serious. In this market in the middle of nowhere, every cultivator here was a Yama King Realm Peak cultivator, each of them exuding spirit energy waves of the same level. In other words, everyone here was a Yama King Realm cultivator who came to face their tribulation. A Yama King Realm cultivator could already be considered a decent cultivation. No wonder the man just now said, "We're both people of status here," when haggling. Gu Qingshan slowly walked through the market. No one paid any attention to him. Occasionally, a few female cultivators would look at him, but it was only a glance. After all, his face had been slightly modified by the super-dimensional weapon to become a lot more handsome. In the words of the super-dimensional weapon, his current appearance was more feminine and feminine, easily attracting the attention of women. This was a completely different style from how Gu Qingshan originally looked. Even the tone of his voice changed slightly. At the time, to avoid being recognized by the enemy, Gu Qingshan agreed to the plastic surgery. As Gu Qingshan walked around the market, he suddenly had a thought. None of these cultivators were from the 900 million world layers of the void. According to the concept of the world, the space vortex was actually a barrier outside of the world, while these people came from the real world. Gu Qingshan suddenly stopped. He had a deep understanding of one thing. Cultivators were able to interact with people from different parallel worlds. Due to the existence of the tribulation, they were able to surpass space-time and meet each other from different worlds. For example, the Yama Heavenly Tribulation. Another example was the current Mahasvara King Tribulation. So what exactly was the Heavenly Tribulation this time? Wasn't it supposed to be linked with the Sumeru Mountain Tribulation? Gu Qingshan's expression did not change. She just walked aimlessly in the market, occasionally glancing at the stalls. There were people selling talismans, weapons and armors, pill furnaces and pills, spirit herbs and immortal fruits, food ingredients and Tao techniques. It was truly dazzling. The cultivators coming and going almost blocked the road. Sometimes it was inevitable that they would get too close to each other. In order to prevent the other party from making the wrong judgment, everyone would release their spiritual power shields and gently touch each other's spiritual power shield. Then, they would borrow the force to move away. It was a scene of modesty and harmony. Gu Qingshan nodded slightly. This was actually understandable. After all, their realms were similar, and they didn't know each other. If they really fought, no one would know who would win. Gu Qingshan stopped in front of a stall. "Fellow Taoist, what kind of information would you like to see?" the cultivator asked. Heaven's tribulation, Gu Qing Shan replied. The cultivator chuckled and said, At our level, we naturally know that the information regarding every heaven's tribulation is extremely confidential. We can't simply talk about it. Gu Qing Shan didn't know anything. How much are you selling it here? He asked with an impatient expression on his face, then glanced at another stall selling jade tags. The cultivator didn't put on any airs and held up a jade tag with 2 fingers. Information regarding this time's Mahasvara King Tribulation, 10,000 spirit stones, 10,000? Gu Qing Shan appeared surprised and asked, Why don't you just rob a bank? After walking around just now, he already knew the value of this piece of information. The cultivator showed the jade tag in front of Gu Qing Shan and sincerely said, This is a special edition, I have more information than anyone else. He silently sent his voice. I have information regarding the Sumer Mountain Tribulation here. This alone is worth 6,000 spirit stones, is that so? You're not lying? Gu Qing Shan doubtfully asked. The cultivator patted his chest. I guarantee that its original content, all of it, is a collection that can only be read with a fee. It's definitely not a copy of someone else's work. If you don't believe me, you can buy it and see if you think it's worth it. Gu Qing Shan lightly nodded. If the other party said that, he felt that this piece of information was worth it. Deal. Gu Qing Shan paid the spirit stones. The spirit stones he had were the same as the pocket money Shifu gave him back at by Hua sect, as well as the monthly allowance he received from Baron Cloud Heavenly Palace. In truth, he had been keeping these spirit stones for a very long time, as he hadn't used this currency for a very long time. Fortunately, spirit stones seemed to be universal in every cultivation world. After receiving the spirit stones, the cultivator quickly gave him the jade tag. The cultivator received the spirit stones, gave him the jade tag and said, You can read it here, I guarantee you won't lose anything. Gu Qing Shan smiled. So confident? He stood still and infused his inner sight into the jade tag. A large amount of information appeared in his thought sea. This was Heaven Pillar World. This was where the Mahasvara King Realm Tribulation and Sumer Lord Realm Tribulation would begin. The Mahasvara King Realm Tribulation would begin once every 1,000 years. All cultivators who faced this Heaven Tribulation within 1,000 years would be able to bypass the limit of space-time and directly appear in Heaven Pillar World. Gu Qing Shan's current location was in the wilderness, not too far away from the main city of Heaven Pillar World. All cultivators who faced the Mahasvara King Realm Tribulation had to go to the main city of Heaven Pillar World and wait for a cultivator to face their Sumer Lord Realm Tribulation. The cultivators would become that cultivator's subordinates, be led and escorted to the summit of Sumer Lord Realm, where they would face their Sumer Lord Realm Tribulation. Once that cultivator successfully faced their tribulation and became a true Sumer Lord Realm cultivator, the other cultivators who successfully escorted him to the summit of Sumer Lord Realm would also complete their Mahasvara King Realm Tribulation. They would become Mahasvara King Realm cultivators, which means this was indeed a combination of the Mahasvara King Realm Tribulation and the Sumer Lord Realm Tribulation. This was actually the most dangerous tribulation a cultivator had ever faced in their cultivation life. And there was an even more serious problem. The Heaven Pillar connecting Heaven Pillar World and Sumer Lord Realm had been broken. The various tribulations on the way had become even more unpredictable and unpredictable. There had already been 5 cultivators who faced their Sumer Lord Realm tribulation in a row, only to die while climbing Sumer Lord Realm. The cultivators who escorted him were also mostly dead. In just a cup of tea's worth of time, Gu Qing Shan had finished reading through the relevant detailed information. His heart was heavy, but his expression was calm as he nodded and told the cultivator, "Your information is indeed worth this price." The cultivator then smiled and loudly declared, "Indeed, our business has always been fair and honest. This is the only way for us to have repeat customers." Gu Qingshan released his inner sight, scanned through the bustling market, and scanned through a certain direction. Sure enough, he saw a city. Heaven Pillar City. In this city, a gigantic stone pillar reached all the way to the sky, but was cut in half by the clouds. This was the Pillar of Heaven. According to the Jade Tag, a long time ago, it was able to connect heaven and earth, all the way to the summit of Sumer Lord Realm. No one knew why it was cut in half. While Gu Qingshan was looking at it, he noticed something. In the blink of an eye, the entire market abruptly disappeared, all the cultivators disappeared as well. The bustling market returned to silence. 3 swords abruptly appeared from the void of space. Without hesitation, Gu Qingshan wielded the twin swords heaven and earth to protect himself. All the spirit energy fluctuations disappeared. The surroundings were deathly silent. Cold wind blew across the barren land, howling shrilly. Gu Qingshan wielded the twin swords and slowly took a few steps forward. His entire being was in battle mode. What exactly happened? Gu Qingshan released his inner sight to scan his surroundings. There was nothing. Those people seemed to have evaporated in the blink of an eye. In this barren land, aside from the sand and rocks, there was nothing but wild grass on the ground. Gu Qingshan looked at the numerous footprints on the ground, as well as the marks left by the stalls on the ground, and became even more doubtful. Those cultivators were clearly here just now. Their belongings were also here. How did they suddenly disappear? Gu Qingshan's back was soaked in cold sweat. All of a sudden, he regained his senses and hurriedly reached for his inventory bag, only to find nothing. Gu Qingshan froze. His storage pouch was stolen. I'm a sword cultivator, yet someone managed to steal my inventory bag without me noticing. This person's strength is truly terrifying. If that's the case, if this person wanted to kill me, no. Gu Qingshan shook his head without any hesitation. My spirit sense couldn't detect anything at all. Even the soul shrieker wouldn't be able to kill me without me noticing. Most likely, this is some sort of ability specifically designed for theft. He stood still for a few moments, recalling everything that happened after he entered the market. Suddenly, a certain scene appeared in his mind. The cultivator who sold the information received the spirit stones and put the jade tag in his hand. If someone wanted to steal something, the only person who came into close contact with me is the cultivator who sold the information. He's the most suspicious. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan recalled something else. He scowled and muttered to himself. This feeling seems very familiar at the same time. Heaven Pillar City. Inside a luxurious palace, a certain little girl, who looked like she was carved out of jade, was holding Gu Qingshan's inventory bag and lightly rubbing it with her hand. The inner sight lock on the inventory bag was instantly released. The little girl began to count the spoils of war. A bunch of cooking utensils, spirit stones. Strange, why aren't there any cultivation inheritances? There are quite a few technological items, but unfortunately, they're useless in our world. The little girl's immature voice resounded one after another, then suddenly stopped. She was holding a big white brick in her hand with great difficulty. The little girl's expression became serious. Although she was serious, she only looked cute. After all, she was still too young. This is Xiao Lu's supersized jade tag. I remember he said he gave it to Gu Qingshan. Chapter 1187. Gu Qingshan stood in the middle of the wilderness, silently waiting. If the one who stole the inventory bag was Shifu, then as soon as Shifu finds out about the things of Baihua sect in the inventory bag, she would quickly return to find me. Just as I thought. In just 20 breaths worth of time, intense winds descended from above, sucking up all the sand on the ground and gathering them together, slowly forming the shape of a woman. Layers of light flashed as the woman's appearance became clear. She wore a white feather dress, a jade crown on her head, her appearance peerless. Her eyes carried a sense of transcendent elegance. Her eyes were as clear as the moon in an autumn pond. Xie Daoling. She tossed the large jade brick in front of Gu Qingshan and casually asked, "Where did you get this jade tag?" Gu Qingshan smiled. "When I first arrived at Shen Wu World, I asked second brother for a few scriptures, he gave it to me." He then clasped his fist and praised. "Shifu, now that you can manifest your true form from sand and stone, your techniques are beyond my imagination." Xie Dao Ling silently stared at him, then asked, "So you are Gu Qingshan? Why do you look like this?" Gu Qingshan then explained everything from the beginning to the end. Xie Dao Ling pondered as she listened, then slowly spoke. "What you said is flawless, but the last time I left Shen Wu World to go to the Cultivation Alliance, someone pretended to be Gu Qingshan and infiltrated our Baihua sect. Xiao Lu and the others were too relaxed and were almost killed by that person. It was fortunate that Qing Rou and Wan Er were quick-witted and managed to escape unscathed." Gu Qingshan spoke. Then, Xie Dao Ling continued. "Swordsmanship is the spirit and spirit of a sword cultivator. Humans can be faked, but swordsmanship cannot, so you need to prove to me that you are the real Gu Qingshan." Gu Qingshan then drew the earth sword from the void of space and sincerely spoke. "I am indebted to Shifu for taking me in, carefully teaching and protecting me. This disciple has always been grateful to you. Ever since we parted ways at the 900 million World Layers Alliance, many things have changed. While this disciple has been wandering from place to place, I have often thought of Shifu. Today, I will prove myself with my swordsmanship. I hope that Shifu will not be stingy with your teachings." Xie Dao Ling smiled and spoke gently. "Come, let your master see how much you've improved." Gu Qingshan cupped her fists and bowed, then suddenly disappeared. Clang! The sword manifested 1,000 layers of frost and abruptly pierced through Xie Dao Ling's chest. Xie Dao Ling's figure slowly disappeared. It was an illusory figure. Gu Qingshan looked up, only to see Xie Dao Ling leaping into the air, her dress fluttering in the wind like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Gu Qingshan held the heaven sword in her hand and pointed it at the sky. A dazzling light burst forth from the body of the sword, condensing into a giant sword shadow. Boom! The shadow of the sword soared, and the dust in the surroundings shook violently as if there was an earthquake. Secret art, river traversing iron sword. With Gu Qingshan's current level of swordsmanship, he had already fully comprehended the water flow severance secret art and created a new, even more powerful secret art. The giant sword shadow flashed and appeared in front of Xie Dao Ling in the blink of an eye. Xie Dao Ling didn't panic and swung her sleeves. Divine skill, sleeve dimension. The giant sword shadow disappeared, unsure where Xie Dao Ling put it. Xie Dao Ling abruptly turned around and threw a punch. Gu Qingshan just happened to appear there and wanted to attack, but Xie Dao Ling took the initiative and could only parry with her sword. Bam! The void of space shook. Gu Qingshan was sent crashing into the ground like a cannonball. Xie Dao Ling stood with her hands clasped behind her back in the void of space, then felt an endless gust of wind. "Sword wind, seems like it's a sword array," she moaned and took out a long whip. Shaw, bam! The whip lashed out with a thunderous crack. The wind seemed to have been struck by this whip and scattered. There was no longer any wind in the sky. Xie Dao Ling put her whip away and slowly descended from the sky. In front of her, Gu Qingshan had just leapt out from the crater. "There's no need to fight anymore. Let me ask you, do you also fight like this when you're outside?" Xie Dao Ling asked. Gu Qingshan replied, "When I'm outside I naturally kill whoever I see, kill whatever I see." It was now that Xie Dao Ling glared at him and said, "You're so timid in a fight, you don't look like a sword cultivator at all. It's only because your master is here that I can see your true level of swordsmanship through your sparring." Gu Qingshan was happy and casually replied, "It's been too long since I've seen Shifu, and my swordsmanship has improved too quickly. I'm a bit afraid of accidentally hurting Shifu." The fact that Xie Dao Ling was criticizing him like that meant that she had recognized his identity. Xie Dao Ling commented, "Your swordsmanship has indeed surpassed the realm of Sword Saint, but what realm is it now?" Gu Qingshan replied. After 1,000 swords there's a single sword. As someone of Xie Daoling's caliber, she understood right away. A single sword surpasses 1,000 swords, so it's the path of being able to unleash and retract your power at will. What realm would it be after that? A single sword can turn into 100 million swords, a sword god, Gu Qingshan replied. Xie Daoling thought for a bit, then praised. 100 million secret swords at once, unstoppable, to be able to guess the path of swordsmanship through a single sentence, this is Xie Daoling. Gu Qingshan was silently impressed and smiled. From now on, I'll be in your care, Shifu. Neither of them mentioned anything about stealing the inventory bag. Xie Daoling observed his appearance and scowled. Qingshan, your appearance is too feminine, it doesn't look like a sword cultivator, Gu Qingshan explained. This is a type of power from the technological realm, a genetic camouflage. Even heavenly spells wouldn't be able to see through a person's original appearance, that's why I agreed to disguise myself like this. I've tried a few methods before, but I can't turn back, Xie Daoling nodded, then said. I want to turn you back to your original appearance, what do you think? Gu Qingshan replied. Of course, no problem, I'll follow Shifu's decision. Endure it a bit, just a bit will do, yes Bam? Gu Qingshan was slapped on the face. He touched his face. Sure enough, he had turned back. Thank you, Shifu, he happily said. Xie Daoling clasped her hands behind her back and said, Xiao Lu is a disappointment, Xiao is still young. Qing Rou and Wan Er joined us later, you're the only one who has gone the farthest in Bai Hua sect, so make sure to never disguise as a man who looks like a woman again, yes, Gu Qingshan replied. Xie Daoling continued. Compared to cultivation, I want the two of you to be upright people, to always have a clear conscience at all times, Gu Qingshan nodded. I will definitely follow Shifu's example and strive to be an upright sword cultivator, Xie Daoling was pleased. That's the style of our Bai Hua sect. While they were talking, a few black dots were flying towards them from afar. Xie Daoling immediately lost her previous imposing manner and said, Qingshan, I'll contact you later, Shifu has something to do. As soon as she said so, the light from the spell around her body completely faded away, turning back into sand and pebbles that scattered on the ground. Gu Qingshan was stunned. Shifu left too quickly. Did she receive some sort of threat? Gu Qingshan squinted his eyes and looked at the black dots flying towards them from afar. His killing intent surged as he grabbed his sword. 10 minutes later, several cultivators were searching around Gu Qingshan's surroundings. They unleashed various spells and techniques, carefully searching for any traces on the ground. Some even took to the air and used their inner sight to scan the void of space. Someone was consoling Gu Qingshan. Fellow Dao Seeker Gu, since it's come to this, you should adjust your mental state, you still have to face your tribulation. Gu Qingshan awkwardly stood there, tried to hold it in but still whispered, Everyone, don't waste your time, that thief is too fast, we really can't find him. One of the cultivators angrily threw his weapon to the ground. He came and went without a trace, we really can't find him. Another cultivator sighed. The cultivator from before looked at Gu Qingshan and asked unwillingly, Fellow Dao Seeker Gu, did you see that thief's face clearly? As Gu Qingshan was about to answer, the cultivator next to him smiled bitterly and dejectedly said, It's useless even if he saw it clearly, that thief transformed into thousands of different forms, taking advantage of when everyone was strolling around the market square. Which one of you didn't fall for the same trick? Everyone felt a bit dejected. That's right, these people were all Yama King realm cultivators, just like Gu Qingshan, cultivators who came to Heaven Pillar World to face their tribulation. It was supposed to be a tribulation, but everyone's inventory bags were stolen. Gu Qingshan silently sighed. Shifu is truly generous. But Shifu isn't a greedy person, so why would she take their inventory bags? While she was thinking, someone suddenly asked, Fellow Dao Seeker Gu, I saw that you seemed to be facing off against that person for a while, could it be that you know each other? Gu Qing replied with a stern expression. How could that be? Go ask around. I'm the third-ranked disciple of Bai Hua sect. Our sect is a righteous sect that has always been open and aboveboard. Us disciples are all righteous, stand upright, and conduct ourselves with a clear conscience at all times. We would never have anything to do with a thief like that. Seeing his indignant expression and recalling how his inventory bag had just been stolen, everyone understood his feelings, so they didn't say anything else. Indeed, if they knew each other, why would they steal Gu Qingshan's things? At this point, everyone suddenly sensed something and looked up at the sky, only to see 7 to 8 inventory bags falling from the sky. My inventory bag, someone called out. Everyone waved their hands and the inventory bags returned to their hand. Including Gu Qingshan, everyone checked their inventory bags. Someone doubtfully said, Strange, nothing is missing, but my cultivation scripture jade tag seems to have been used. Chapter 1188. The Dusty World's Secret Passage. 2 men wearing yiksha masks descended from the sky, standing on the jagged rocks of strange shapes. They looked around and quickly found the place. Is it there? One of them asked. That's right, the Heavenly King had already chosen his master and told us where his true body was sealed, the other replied. The first man sighed emotionally. Since this divine armament has returned, our Wraith realm will no longer have to worry about not winning against the abyss. The 2 of them walked to a corner and looked at the stone wall. One of them reached his hand out and pressed it on a certain part of the stone wall. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The stone wall slowly opened. The inside was empty. Tens of thousands of stone heads appeared in front of the 2 of them. These heads were angrily hovering in the air, constantly spinning. They were neatly arranged, giving off an indescribable power that made one's heart skip a beat. Suppression of 10,000 heads, demons and deities do not come. These occultism stones were able to open up a separate space. How shocking! The 2 of them looked down at the stone heads. A pale white bow was being suppressed by the stone heads, lying motionlessly on the ground. This was one of the 2 great divine armaments of the Wraith realm, Mara's bow. This bow was the true body of the Mara Heavenly King. One of them asked in surprise. When the Mara Heavenly King descended on our world, 80,000 cursed wraiths surrounded it. Why aren't the true bodies of those cursed wraiths here? The other replied. Master said that when the Mara's bow is opened and closed, a wraith sigil would turn into an arrow that would definitely hit its target. Because of that, all 80,000 cursed wraiths are attached to this bow. We only need to take it away. The other man nodded in realization. All right, let's get to work. Take out the divine armaments and arrange them according to that method. Quickly save the Heavenly King's true body. The other person stood still, as if he was trying to recall something. His companion asked in confusion, What's the matter? The other man sighed. It was said that there was a mountain deity in the Huangquan realm. Unfortunately, the Huangquan realm fragment that we rule doesn't have this deity. So what if there is a mountain deity? If that deity is here, he only needs to use the Grand Tai Wei Mountain's divine armament to directly take out the Mara's bow. Oh? His companion's interest was piqued, and he asked, That divine weapon can ignore this suppression formation of 10,000 heads. That's right. It's said that the Tai Wei Mountain's divine weapon can break all spells. However, this is only a rumor and has never been proven. If that's the case, then it's indeed powerful. As the 2 of them spoke, they slowly collected their thoughts and began to arrange a way to save the situation. They took out a dozen or so divine tools and busied themselves with constructing a formation. Time flew by. Just as they were concentrating, a figure suddenly appeared behind them. This figure came without a sound and just stood there quietly, watching the 2 of them. The 2 of them finally finished setting up the formation. They activated the formation, and with the power of more than 10 artifacts, they finally formed a weak resonance with the suppression formation of 10,000 heads. After a while, a gap appeared in the 10,000 heads suppression formation. Come, someone shouted. With a schwa sound, the pale white longbow flew out of the realm of suppression through the crack. The two of them were delighted, but then they saw that the longbow was being held by a hand. This is the Moroluo? Why isn't the artifact spirit here? A female voice filled with curiosity rang out. No one said anything. The two wraiths stood there, unable to move. The female voice sounded again. I had just returned from the Giant of Beginnings place in disappointment. Who would have thought I'd find such an unexpected harvest on the way? The longbow turned around in her hand and disappeared. Very well, I'll slowly think of a way to deal with the artifact spirit. In short, I'll be taking this bow. Saying so, the figure slowly flew away. The two wraiths still couldn't move at all. They stood still, their blood seeping through their skin, slowly dyeing their entire bodies red, almost like red wax puppet. Even after a long time, when the Wraith Realms people came again, they were still standing there. The figure put the longbow away and continued forward, heading deeper into the secret passage. Soon enough, she arrived at the place where the battle took place. The Starlight Steel Fortress. She didn't immediately fly past the fortress, but instead landed on the surface of the fortress. The smell of death, strange, did someone come here before? She muttered. Following her muttering, images appeared from the void of space, manifesting into images that displayed what happened in the past in front of her eyes. Su Sher fought against the two deities. Gu Qingshan returned. The two worlds overlap. Gu Qingshan summoned the dead and wreaked havoc in Huangquan. The pixie army arrived. Everyone agreed to meet again. Su Sher infiltrated the fortress, while Gu Qingshan piloted the ship and left. She silently watched until the very end. All the images faded away. So the one called Su Sher is right beneath my feet? Her voice resounded again without any emotions. Following that, a holy light illuminated the darkness, revealing her beautiful and pure appearance. The sacred chant angel, Frost. She looked down at the surface of the steel fortress, her eyes constantly moving. It was as if her gaze could pierce through the steel to see the situation inside the fortress. Found it, her entire body turned into a faint shadow, pierced through the thick steel outer layer, and entered the interior of the fortress. Maintaining her faint shadow state, the sacred chant angel flew forward until she reached where Su Sher was. It was a large transparent breeding tank. Su Sher was curled up inside, sleeping. Her entire body was filled with tubes, while countless faint lights were constantly being absorbed into her body. The sacred chant angel observed for a while, then muttered to herself, "Technological things really are disgusting." Saying so, she reached her hand out towards Su Sher and spoke with a malicious tone. "Gu Qingshan will be mine sooner or later. As for you, just disappear from this world." All of a sudden, a female voice came from behind her. "Regardless of who you are, if you dare to harm her, you'll be the one to disappear in the next second." The sacred chant angel paused. She turned around and looked at the person. "Who are you?" she asked. "Someone who can take your life," the person replied. The sacred chant angel looked at the person with a surprised gaze. She then looked at the black handgun in the other party's hand and mocked. "Just with that? You can try," the person coldly replied. Noticing the meaning in the other party's tone, the sacred chant angel didn't say anything. However, streaks of holy light appeared in all directions. They formed a total of 73 images. Each of the images showed the scene of two people fighting. In 43 of the images, the sacred chant angel and her opponent perished together. In the other 30 images, she was heavily wounded while her opponent was killed. In just a single breath's worth of time, all the images disappeared as if they were never there in the first place. The sacred chant angel casually spoke. "If this fortress didn't have so many weapons that can destroy everything, you wouldn't be able to do anything to me," the person replied. "But we're currently in this fortress. I can kill you at any time," the sacred chant angel coldly scoffed. "You really aren't afraid of death? I don't believe you're brave enough to perish together with me." The person honestly replied, "Of course I'm not, and I know you're definitely afraid of death." The sacred chant angel didn't believe him and stared at him. What makes you say that? The person replied. I have a backup, you don't. The sacred chant angel's body trembled. She had lived for countless years, so she naturally had a deep understanding of technological knowledge. So she could only remain silent. After a while, she muttered, I hate technology. The person didn't say anything and simply continued to point the gun at her. The sacred chant angel had no choice but to turn around and leave this place. Before she left, she suddenly said, Tell me your name. The person replied. Impartial goddess. The sacred chant angel shook her head. I'm not asking for your name, I want to know your name. Impartial goddess kept her mouth shut and didn't say any name in the end. Thinking she understood something, the sacred chant angel smirked mockingly and said, Coward, could it be an evil creature? Otherwise, why wouldn't you tell me your name? Saying so, she left. Impartial goddess stood still and stayed silent for a long time. Name, she muttered. The sacred chant angel didn't look back as she flew out of the fortress at full speed, raising both hands in the air. In her hand was a giant war hammer made of white light. Now that I've left the fortress, I'm no longer under her control. All of you die, she said viciously. She threw out the giant hammer and smashed it towards the steel fortress. But at the very next moment, the fortress disappeared without a trace. Such a huge fortress had actually disappeared without a trace in less than a second. It was truly inconceivable. The sacred chant angel scowled. She waved her hand. The war hammer of light turned into countless streaks of light and returned to her body. Gu Qingshan's woman, as well as a protector who doesn't even dare to tell me his name, she thought for a bit, then muttered. No, he has the twine of Cloud Atlas, as well as the power of occultism. I have to use him. I can't let any other woman fool him away. Very well, I'll go find him now and combine with him. She suddenly reached her hand out. She caught a cluster of air currents from the void of space. My power was given to the giant of beginning by him. Fortunately, I still have this. This was a cluster of aura that she collected from Gu Qingshan's body when she dispelled her curse. After a bit of hesitation, the sacred chant angel put this cluster of aura in front of herself. She reached out a finger and began to write something on the aura. After she finished, she chanted a long incantation and lightly blew on the aura. Go, no matter where he is, using the power of occultism, this letter will appear in front of him. The aura quickly disappeared into the void of space, disappearing without a trace. The sacred chant angel silently waited. At another location, Gu Qingshan was flying through the sky. He was following a few other cultivators who were also facing their tribulation towards Heaven Pillar City. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks. Everyone, please go first. I have something to do. I'll be right there, Gu Qingshan called out. Remember, you must enter the city before nightfall, one of the cultivators loudly called out. Gu Qingshan nodded. The other cultivators left first. Gu Qingshan stood in the void of space. 3 flying swords also appeared at the same time. What's the matter? The Earth Sword asked with a resounding voice. A unique feeling, as if something that belongs to me is looking for me, Gu Qingshan replied. Something that belongs to you? Luo Bingli asked in confusion. The Chao Yin sword also let out a curious sound. It's here, Gu Qingshan said. The void of space began to split apart as an invisible aura rushed out. Huh! Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised, because he noticed that this was his own aura. As the aura gathered in front of him, it manifested as sprites of light. The sprites gathered together to form a letter. The man and the 3 swords gathered together and looked at the letter, only to see that the letter was written in the language of heaven, basically stating that this letter was written by the sacred chant angel. She had always been grateful to Gu Qingshan for saving her life. Now that she had fully recovered and regained her power, she had nothing else to do, so she was willing to come and fight alongside Gu Qingshan. Finally, the sacred chant angel left a summoning incantation. As soon as Gu Qingshan chanted this incantation, she would be summoned by Gu Qingshan. She indicated that she was ready to fight and was waiting for Gu Qingshan's summon. Together with his 3 swords, Gu Qingshan finished reading the letter. The Earth Sword spoke up. That woman is very powerful, as well as one of the few people other than yourself who wields the power of occultism. Your situation is currently unpredictable. How about you summon her to help you? Gu Qingshan shook his head. No need, Luo Bingli's voice resounded from the Heaven Sword. You don't want such a good fighter? Why not? Gu Qingshan replied. I still feel like something isn't right. My spirit sense is giving off an uncomfortable feeling. Luo Bingli was in disbelief. You're rejecting her for such a vague reason? Wait a minute, Earth Sword, is that Archangel ugly? That's not it. The Earth Sword shook its blade a bit, its tone becoming ethereal. To put it in a vulgar way, from her figure to her appearance, she is the dream appearance of many male humans. And also very holy, Luo Bingli understood. The Heaven Sword circled around and observed Gu Qingshan in the air. Is there something wrong with you? If you're sick, you can't drag it out, Luo Bingli said caringly. I'm not sick, Gu Qingshan resolutely replied. There's no need to talk about this anymore. I've always felt that she was giving off a strange aura. I trust my instincts. Then why aren't you responding to anything? I'm not responding, Luo Bingli worriedly said. She's still waiting for you to summon her. If you do that, you might offend her, the Earth Sword also said. She's a very powerful woman. If you don't summon her and you meet again in the future, how are you going to explain it to her? Gu Qingshan looked at the letter in her hand, thought for a bit, then answered. I can't read. Chapter 1189. You must enter the city before nightfall. Before those cultivators left, they solemnly told Gu Qingshan this. Gu Qingshan put the letter away and looked up at the sky. Night was about to fall. Gu Qingshan sped up. There's still enough time, there's no need to expose a divine skill like ground shrink. He flew under the low gray clouds, through the cold wind, and passed through large areas of ruined cities. At a certain point, rain began to fall, slowly turning into a torrential downpour. On the plains, a large number of ruined buildings were bathed in the rain. After observing for a while, Gu Qingshan noticed that these buildings were all made from extremely sturdy materials. Some of them even gave off unique energy fluctuations. Perhaps it was because of this that even after countless years of being exposed to the elements, they still maintained their original state when they were first destroyed. However, what exactly was it that destroyed these cities? A large-scale war? A natural disaster? Or something else? Gu Qingshan carefully observed the ruins. Almost all of the roofs had been lifted off, various items were scattered all over the ground. Some of the items here seemed to be more attractive than others, as there were signs of people organizing and selecting them. This must be the work of someone who came later. Since so much time had passed, and the entire site was destroyed by people who came later, many traces of what happened back then were already gone. Under such circumstances, Gu Qingshan couldn't come to a conclusion. Hey, all of a sudden, a voice resounded in his thoughts. See. Gu Qingshan was startled and stopped in midair, asking, Who is it? It's me, a young man was flying towards him from afar. Gu Qingshan looked at his appearance, then at the turtle shell on his back and exclaimed in shock. Young tortoise! Why are you here? Indeed, this young man was one of the 4 divine beasts of Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace, the spirit tortoise. Young tortoise flew in front of him and said, Your Shifu left in a hurry and forgot to tell you something, so she sent me here to deliver a message. What is it? You must enter the city before nightfall. Ah, I see. But why is young Master Turtle here? Young Turtle replied, Wasn't it because you obtained the twin swords heaven and earth in the end? My mission was completed, and it just so happened that your Shifu went to the primordial heaven realm again, so I followed her back to your world, Gu Qingshan said. Now that you're following my Shifu, are you here to help her transcend the tribulation? Exactly, young tortoise said. At this time, The rain became even heavier. Everything within a few meters was covered in mist. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, and nothing could be seen clearly. The sky darkened further. Young Tortoise urged, "Let's talk on the way, we can't delay any longer." "All right." The two of them flew towards Heaven Pillar City. Is my Shifu facing the Mahasvara King, Realm Tribulation, or the Sumer Lord Realm Tribulation? Gu Qingshan asked while flying. "Didn't you see her?" the spirit turtle asked. Gu Qingshan explained. "No, she's using a spell clone, I can't judge her strength." "Ah, is that so? She came here to face the Sumer Lord Realm Tribulation." The spirit turtle lowered its voice and continued. "Your Shifu seemed to have run into some sort of unique encounter, so she insisted on coming here to face the Sumer Lord Realm Tribulation. Her disciples and I couldn't stop her no matter how much we tried." Gu Qingshan was confused and couldn't help but ask, "Don't all cultivators have to face their tribulation? If she wants to advance, she naturally has to come here to face her tribulation. Why are you stopping her?" The spirit turtle glanced at him and explained, "Your Shifu refined a golden lotus into a golden light and fused it into her thought sea. From then on, whenever she wants to advance, she can directly break through without facing a tribulation." "No need to face a tribulation, directly break through?" Gu Qingshan thought he heard wrong, so he asked again. The spirit turtle nodded. Gu Qingshan was shocked. When Xie Dao Ling was born, she was accompanied by a golden lotus that stole the fortune of heaven and earth, causing the divine race to be wary of her and place a vicious curse on her. Xie Gu Hong tried everything he could think of to seal her inside an ice crystal and make her sleep, only waking her up after the curse was lifted. This was what Gu Qingshan knew. He knew that his Shifu must be very special and would become very powerful in the future. But he didn't think that his Shifu would be able to break through without facing a tribulation. Gu Qingshan hurriedly asked, "Then why did my Shifu come here to face her tribulation?" The spirit turtle sighed and replied, "It was for Shen Wu world. After all, there aren't any good scriptures in Shen Wu world that would allow cultivators to cultivate all the way to Yama King realm and above." "Then why did my Shifu?" "She had a few scriptures, but they seemed to only be suitable for her to cultivate. That's why she came here, wanting to obtain a few scriptures from cultivators of other worlds to help the living beings of Shen Wu world quickly grow stronger." Gu Qingshan nodded as he listened. At this point, a gigantic black shadow appeared from the misty rain in front of them. They had finally arrived at Heaven Pillar City. The two of them flew up the city wall and landed. The spirit turtle sighed in relief. The other cultivators were already waiting for them here. "It's good that you made it here before nightfall," one of them said with a relieved tone. The others also nodded, apparently relieved of their worries. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised and clasped his fist. "Fellow Dao Seekers, have you been waiting here for us?" A male cultivator replied, "That's right, the Mahasvara King Realm Tribulation isn't just a normal level of danger. The more people there are, the more I feel at ease." The female cultivator next to him seemed to be his Dao companion, so she followed up. "If there aren't enough people, I'd rather retreat a realm and go back to cultivate for a few hundred years," a monk spoke. "Amitba, according to our world's records, to successfully reach the summit of Mount Sumeru, the more people there are, the more likely it is to succeed." Gu Qingshan looked at the other people's expressions and saw that they also had a look of agreement, so she understood. These people were waiting for him here to see if he had made it here safely or not. They were counting the number of people. Gu Qingshan tried asking, "That person who went through our inventory bags, isn't he one of us?" The main reason why she asked this was because she was afraid that Shifu would be found out in the future, so she wanted to test everyone's reaction first. Gu Qingshan could understand Shifu's difficulties, and he would definitely stand on Shifu's side in this matter. The cultivators exchanged glances, all a bit hesitant. That thief didn't steal anything. He only went through everyone's scripture jade tags. However, I've checked my scripture jade tag, a cultivator said. According to the residual fluctuations of the technique on the jade tag, I found that a copy of the jade tag was made. Mine as well, someone else made a copy. To steal this humble one's unique scripture, this humble one will never forgive this person, another coldly scoffed. Another person said, I don't mind taking some spirit stones, but scriptures are the foundation of us cultivators. If that person dared to steal my scripture, I will definitely not cooperate with him. That's right. That's right. The cultivators all echoed in agreement. The crowd was furious. Gu Qingshan shook her head, exchanged glances with the spirit tortoise, and prepared to leave. At this point, a cultivator suddenly laughed and pridefully said, This humble one's scripture is the most precious one in the sect. I have to spend a lot of time studying it every day, so I've been prepared for it. That person didn't manage to steal it. Ah? You didn't put the jade tag in your inventory bag? Another cultivator asked. The cultivator said, Please take a look. Everyone followed his gaze. Layers of runes and formations appeared from the void of space above his head. Amidst the densely packed arrays, a single jade slip floated back and forth by itself. The cultivator said, With so many formations around, even if I wanted to take it out myself, it would take quite a bit of effort, and that thief wouldn't be able to take advantage of me while I'm unprepared. Furthermore, as long as these formations are affected in the slightest, the jade tag will be transported back to our world and appear in the sect's scripture pavilion, so even if I die, there won't be any issues with the scripture jade tag. The cultivator was a bit prideful and smiled. This is a foolproof method. No matter what that thief does, he wouldn't be able to steal my scripture. Hearing that, the cultivators all thought about it and found that there really wasn't any other way. That's a good method, hiding it in the void of space, protected by formations, but not taking it yourself. What a wondrous idea! Ahaha, that thief is definitely going to lose this time. Serves that thief right for wasting his time. He didn't get anything from you, fellow Taoist. How satisfying! The cultivators all praised and laughed. If I catch that thief next time, I will definitely torture him to relieve the anger in my heart. Indeed, that's how it should be. Kill the man, the woman, let's show her how strong we are. That's right, ahaha. Gu Qingshan silently listened and squinted her eyes. I can understand that you're in a bad mood after your scripture was copied. But you insulted my Shifu right in front of me. Then, young tortoise, let's go, Gu Qingshan told the spirit tortoise. Ah yes, the two of them moved and flew towards the city. Not even a cup of tea's worth of time later, they had already landed in the city, entered a palace, and stood in front of Xie Dao Ling. Shifu, why did you become smaller? Gu Qingshan was surprised. Xie Dao Ling's real body was naturally still the same 7 to 8-year-old appearance. It's just a spell, it's quite useful to me, so I haven't dispelled it yet, she replied. At this point, a commotion could be heard from the city wall, echoing throughout the entire city. The spirit tortoise couldn't help but say, Strange, when we just left, they were still fine. Why are they making a ruckus now? Because of this, Gu Qingshan casually replied. He put his hand forward. A jade tag appeared in his hand. Gu Qingshan infused her inner sight into it and memorized its content. Sure enough, it's a decent scripture. He lightly tossed the jade tag and let it fly in front of Xie Dao Ling. Shifu, the scripture on this jade tag seems to be quite unusual. I still have something to do later on, so I won't be able to return to Shinwu World. Please take it back to the sect, Shifu, Gu Qingshan said. Xie Dao Ling received the jade tag, glanced through it and smiled. Indeed, this scripture contains elemental spells, secret arts, blades, swords, staffs, thaumaturgies, etc. It's very useful to our world. She put the jade tag away. The spirit tortoise's eyes were staring closely at the jade tag, recognizing it to be the item from that person just now. He couldn't help but ask, Gu Qingshan, how did you get this jade tag? Gu Qingshan cleared her throat and replied, There are treasures in the world, and I'm good at borrowing them. Xie Daoling's eyes lit up, repeated those words in a low voice, then slapped the chair. That's a good way to put it. Dao comes from the world itself, and the things of the world are naturally for those who are good at borrowing them, not from others, but from the world itself. That's right, Shifu is right. Gu Qingshan praised. The spirit tortoise looked at Xie Daoling, then at Gu Qingshan. This pair of master and disciple are both skilled at stealing things, and their words are also quite ostentatious. Speaking of which, isn't Bai Hua sect an inherited sect of Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace? This is a famous righteous sect that's been around for over 10,000 years. That's just and honorable. Like hell, I'll believe you. The spirit tortoise silently sighed and spoke. You Bai Hua sect disciples are truly evil. Chapter 1190. Xie Daoling held the jade tag in her hand and carefully read it. A few minutes later, she told Gu Qingshan, "This is the temple of burning incense. According to the ancient customs, all cultivators who want to climb the heaven-supporting pillar must burn incense here for a day before they can climb the heaven-supporting pillar and head to Mount Sumer." Gu Qingshan asked. "The heaven-supporting pillar has already been broken, and the heaven-supporting pillar world has become completely desolate. Shifu still wants to follow the ancient customs. I'm going to silently cultivate here for a night. Tomorrow I'll begin climbing the heaven-supporting pillar." Saying so, Xie Daoling summoned the spirit tortoise. She gave the jade tag to the spirit tortoise and said, "Same as before, return it." Gu Qingshan asked, "Shifu, you've memorized everything?" Xie Daoling nodded. "There are 94 problems with the scriptures in here, 1089 can be improved, and 61 have different meanings. I've marked them all out and made the corresponding improvements. Consider it my thanks for using their scriptures." Gu Qingshan asked again, "Did Shifu do the same thing for every cultivator's scriptures from before?" "Yes, after all, there's no grudge between us, so I used their scriptures and gave them some pointers to help them avoid going astray. This way we don't owe each other anything. That's the best." Gu Qingshan sighed in admiration, but then recalled how those people scolded her just now and held herself back. The spirit tortoise received the jade tag and disappeared somewhere. Only the master and disciple were left in the temple. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit and asked, "Shifu, you really don't need to face a tribulation to continue breaking through?" Xie Daoling nodded. "I don't know why it's like this either," she slowly said, "but ever since I refined the golden lotus, my understanding of cultivation has far surpassed the past. I can understand the meaning of many things at a glance, and occasionally, a few images would appear in my mind." "What images?" Gu Qingshan asked. Xie Daoling appeared a bit confused and answered in a low voice, "I can't explain it clearly. Sometimes it's creatures I've never seen before, sometimes it's the scene of a world being destroyed, as well as a lot of unfamiliar faces and languages, or maybe it's a dream." "Can you see cultivators from the age of old?" Gu Qingshan asked. The reason why she asked this was because when Gu Qingshan was searching for the Heaven Sword, she once entered Xie Daoling's dreamscape. To prevent the temporal oasis where the Heaven Sword was being forged from being discovered, the immortal king hid the final jade disc inside Xie Daoling's dreamscape. Xie Daoling thought for a bit and replied, "No, if it was a cultivator, I would definitely be able to investigate a bit, but the things and scenes I saw in my dream are things I've never seen before in my entire life." The two of them looked at each other. Xie Daoling waved her hand to arrange several barrier formations, then asked in a low voice, "I once taught you all of my techniques. Have you learned Unbreakable Mountain Range?" "Yes," Gu Qingshan admitted. "That skill allows me to create a phantom image." "Yes, it's that figure. I've seen it in a flash before," Xie Daoling replied. Gu Qingshan was startled. She recalled that entity. It was a gigantic humanoid monster. Its face was faintly recognizable as a human face, but its body was a long snake's. Or perhaps it wasn't a snake's body, but rather, a dragon's? Xie Daoling continued. After I discovered this, I went to look at the jade tag that I used to practice this technique in the past, wanting to find out where this entity came from. Unfortunately, the martial arts jade tag didn't contain this divine skill, not even a single word about it. For some reason, Gu Qingshan felt a chill down her spine and couldn't help but ask. Could it be that you remembered wrongly and it wasn't that jade tag, but another jade tag? I couldn't be. Xie Dao Ling lowered her gaze and muttered. It wasn't until I looked through that jade tag again that I remembered that this unbreakable mountain range was something I derived and deduced myself. Gu Qingshan froze. Xie Dao Ling continued. At the time, I was 19 years old. My sect had just been destroyed not too long ago, so I was wandering around by myself. One day, I killed a martial cultivator with ill intentions and obtained a martial scripture from him. As I looked through it, I deduced this divine skill. At the time, I was also scared and knew that something was wrong, so I sealed this part of my memories. It wasn't until I actively went to look for this part of my memories that I found the truth. Gu Qingshan tried his best to remain calm and asked, Shifu, what about the Forgetting River? It was also something that I deduced myself, or rather, it was a skill that I comprehended, Xie Dao Ling admitted. When 21 years old, Gu Qingshan gasped. He had seen too many things in his life, but he had never even heard of someone like Xie Dao Ling. Xie Dao Ling continued. Compared to the projection of unbreakable mountain range, the ferryman of the Forgetting River was an entity that I could communicate with. Every time I fought, she would always ask me how much vitality I had to expend, so I eventually asked her what exactly was going on with me. Gu Qingshan immediately asked, What did she say? She never told me anything, but there was one time when I couldn't keep pestering her, so she sighed and said that I was pitiful. Gu Qingshan felt like his heart was about to jump out of his chest. This sentence had always been stuck in his mind, never forgotten. Back in the giant corpse world, the monster that I had to use everything I had to kill with the earth sword also said the same thing to me. It said that I was pitiful. Pitiful? Why is it pitiful? A deep sense of fear gripped Gu Qingshan's heart. He suddenly stood up and paced back and forth in the hall. Disciple, what's the matter? Xie Daoling asked. Gu Qingshan forced a smile. It's nothing, I'm just thinking about what kind of deity that ferryman of the Forgetting River was. The Huang Quan fragment world that was ruled by the Wraith realm most likely didn't have such a deity. She was too powerful, the Wraith realm might not be able to deal with her. Which means, she must belong to an unknown Huang Quan fragment world. Why did she say that Xie Daoling was pitiful? What does she know? Is there a connection between Shifu's matter and my encounter with that monster? Gu Qingshan felt like his head was about to explode from thinking so much. Xie Daoling scowled. I've performed a few divinations to see if there's a way to come into contact with these things in the dream. What were the results? Gu Qingshan asked. The results all pointed to this Sumer Lord Realm tribulation. As you know, I originally didn't need to face this tribulation, but since I can obtain some information during the tribulation, as well as help our world accumulate Tao scriptures, I decided to come. Gu Qingshan stopped. Seems like I'll have to do everything I can this time. This might be Xie Daoling's matter, but it might also be my matter. Xie Daoling continued. Ever since the heaven-supporting pillar broke, both the Mahasvara King Realm Tribulation and the Sumer Lord Realm Tribulation have become even more dangerous, so I'm actually not too confident. Qingshan, you can't be careless either. I'll go take a look around later, Gu Qingshan replied. Very well, this isn't a place that can be easily reached. Only those who have faced their tribulations can come here. Take a look around, maybe you'll find something. Xie Daoling's tone suddenly became light and said, When will you be able to return to the sect? Xiao and the others are all missing you, Gu Qingshan replied. I've been a bit busy lately, I'll go back to see them after I'm done. He suddenly recalled something and asked, Shifu, are you currently at Mahasvara King Realm? I am, Xie Daoling replied. Gu Qingshan carefully asked. The legends say that the Mahasvara king has 48 dependents. What's with these 48 dependents? Xie Dao Ling replied with an got down from her chair, clasped her hands behind her back, and walked in front of Gu Qingshan. She reached her hand out, but Gu Qingshan was too tall. With her current height, she couldn't even reach Gu Qingshan's forehead. Xie Dao Ling glared at him and said, "Lower your head." Gu Qingshan lowered his head. Xie Dao Ling tapped his forehead with her finger, then turned around and sat down on her chair. Chapter 1191. When Xie Dao Ling pointed her finger in between Gu Qingshan's eyebrows, a message appeared in Gu Qingshan's inner sight. At the same time, lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Ui frowny face. From Mahasvara king realm onwards, the laws of heaven and earth would begin to reciprocate to the cultivator. Xie Dao Ling is a Mahasvara king realm cultivator. According to the laws of heaven and earth, her multiple thaumaturgy has been awakened. She can have a total of 48 dependents. You've obtained a chance to become Xie Dao Ling's dependent. Are you willing to become her dependent? I am, Gu Qingshan replied. Regardless of who tries to harm me, Shifu would never harm me. Lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Ui frowny face. You have become Xie Dao Ling's dependent. You may choose a thaumaturgy, technique, skill, or any other manifestation method of their power and share it with Xie Dao Ling. Attention. The ability you share must belong to a cultivation type ability. Attention. Xie Dao Ling must expend her own spirit energy to use this ability. Your spirit energy will not be deducted. Attention. Xie Dao Ling's use of this ability will not affect your ability to use it. Description. Mahasvara king may choose one ability from the 48 dependents for his own use every 3 days. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but be surprised. In the past, every time a cultivator advanced, they would have to be struck by lightning. When they finally reached a higher realm, they would have to face Tribulation Realm and be constantly on edge. After Tribulation Realm, Void Revolution Realm, they would have to face the tribulations of earth, water, fire, and wind, followed by the Yama Heavenly King's forceful peace. After going through all of these, the laws of heaven and earth changed their attitude. 48 dependents, that means 48 different abilities. She could use one ability every 3 days. For a cultivator, this would be an unimaginable boost. Gu Qingshan immediately thought about what kind of ability she should share with Shifu. Since it must be a cultivation-type ability, my strongest ability would be Rahu's Eclipse of Sun and Moon. Unfortunately, Shifu's weapon is a whip, not a sword, so it would be very inconvenient to use this ability. I'm a sword cultivator, and almost all of my skills are with the sword, so what else can I give to Shifu? While he was thinking, Xie Dao Ling smiled and said, "Don't worry about it, just transmit any spell or technique to me through your dependent technique. After all, you're a sword cultivator," she continued. "I've actually included Xiao Lu, Xiao Xiao, Qing Rou, and Wan Er as my dependents. This way I can keep track of your situation at all times." As for techniques and spells, that's secondary. Gu Qingshan asked, "How did you know about our situation?" "If a dependent is heavily injured or killed, I will lose the dependent's ability," Xie Dao Ling replied. Gu Qingshan nodded, but she was still thinking carefully. Shifting Shadows was not bad. Awakening Dream was not bad either. In terms of movement techniques, Shizuan already has the ability to shrink the ground to inches. In battle, Shifu was strong enough, and she used a long whip. Gu Qingshan continued to think. Awakening Dream was a lightning thaumaturgy that he had perfected after many advancements. This thaumaturgy was a cultivation-type thaumaturgy that he obtained through a war god quest, so it was extremely powerful. I can easily imagine Xie Dao Ling wielding a whip covered in lightning and striking the enemy with a sha. The enemy would be struck by Awakening Dream, and wouldn't be able to move. Sha. 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 Wouldn't that mean I'll be whipped until I die? That's a good idea. Having made up her mind, Gu Qing-shan closed her eyes and transmitted her lightning thaumaturgy. This was a miraculous feeling, as if the laws of reality had entered my mind, copied a certain power, and transmitted it to the other party. At first, Xie Daoling didn't mind and only smiled. But very quickly, she seemed to have sensed something and opened her mouth slightly. Qing-shan, your lightning thaumaturgy has evolved to this level. How rare! It should be very useful for restraining the enemy. Saying so, she took out a long whip. Zzz. The whip gave off a blue-white glow of lightning. Xie Daoling looked at the lightning and raised the whip. Sha! Boom! A deafening explosion resounded. The entire palace was filled with dust, as if a bolt of lightning had descended. Xie Daoling praised, "What a useful lightning thaumaturgy!" Gu Qing-shan. He had already started to mourn for Xie Daoling's future enemy. This had already gone beyond the realm of being whipped. This is basically forcing someone to face a lightning tribulation. Gu Qing-shan chuckled. He was quite happy to be able to help Shifu a bit more. Xie Daoling put the whip away, took out a talisman, and gave it to Gu Qing-shan. Lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Ui frowny face. Attention, this talisman is currently activating multiple dependence conversations. Gu Qing-shan sensed several inner sights in his thoughts. See. One of them was Xie Daoling's, the others were also familiar. All of a sudden, a joyful female voice called out, "Third brother? Is that you, third brother?" Gu Qing-shan was surprised. Xiao. Ah, it's me. Did third brother meet Shifu? Xiao asked. Before Gu Qing-shan could answer, Wan Er's voice followed. Wait a minute, could it be you're breaking through to Mahasvara King Realm? That's right, I just happened to meet Shifu. Wan Er, long time no see, Gu Qing-shan smiled and replied. Everyone on the other side exclaimed in shock. Mahasvara King Realm. Shifu is a monster, but third brother is also the same. How are we supposed to live like this? All of a sudden, one of the inner sights disappeared. Gu Qing-shan worriedly asked, "Who was it? Who left?" Qing Ro's gentle voice came again. Don't worry, senior brother, it's just that second brother couldn't keep his face, so he temporarily cut off his inner sight. Second brother, Qin Xiaolu. Gu Qing-shan held back his laughter and asked, "What realm is he at right now?" The three girls answered at the same time. Tribulation realm, that's a lot of tribulations, help me tell him to be careful. Gu Qing-shan sighed emotionally. It's fine, Xiao replied. Third brother, you don't know this, but second brother has never killed anyone, he'll be fine. That's right, he's never won against cultivators from other sects, we're always the ones to save him, Wan Er followed up. After chatting for a bit more, everyone knew that Xie Daoling and Gu Qing-shan were still in the middle of their tribulation, so they didn't say much and left. Have our talisman skills reached this level? Gu Qing-shan asked. Xie Daoling smiled and shook her head. This is the highest grade of voice talismans, there are only a few of them, keep this one safe. Gu Qing-shan carefully put the talisman away. How is it? Do you miss them a lot? Xie Daoling asked. Yeah, those days of cultivation really make me want to go back, Gu Qing-shan replied. Unfortunately, I can't go back. Gu Qing-shan was curious and asked. Shifu, the Mahasvara king, has 48 dependents, while the Summer Lord has 120 followers. What do you mean by follower? Xie Daoling replied. Follower means to follow the body like a shadow, it's also a multi-person thaumaturgy. The Summer Lord can assign 120 followers, as long as he summons them, they can travel through spacetime to appear in front of the Summer Lord and fight together, so that's how it is. Gu Qing-shan nodded. This is a bit similar to summoning, but it has more advantages than summoning. Travel through spacetime, same race. These 2 points alone are superior to normal summoning technique. Gu Qing-shan stood up and said goodbye to Xie Daoling. Shifu, I'm going out for a walk to see if I can get any information. Use the dependent thaumaturgy to contact me if anything happens. Alright, go ahead, I need to think about tomorrow's matters. Xie Daoling said. Gu Qingshan bowed and left the hall. He went out onto the street. The entire city was made up of traditional cultivation-type buildings, decorated in an antique style and had a unique sense of beauty. Unfortunately, there was no one on the streets at night. There were no longer any living beings in this world. Gu Qingshan glanced at the towering heaven-reaching pillar and silently pondered. There's no need to climb the heaven-reaching pillar in a hurry, because when Shifu faces her tribulation, everyone will have to climb this pillar. All of a sudden, a burst of fireworks appeared in the night sky. Gu Qingshan turned to look, only to see fireworks rising to the sky, blossoming, then falling like a shower of stars. From the direction, they're all outside the city walls, Gu Qingshan muttered, then recalled something else. Everyone reminded him not to stay outside the city at night. He didn't have time to ask about it before, but now there are fireworks outside the city. Very well, since I'm going to check the situation, I might as well go up to the city walls and see what's going on. Gu Qingshan lightly tapped the ground with his foot, turned into a blurred image, and flew out of the city. A few moments later, he stood on top of the city walls. At this point, there were already 2 to 3 cultivators standing guard on top of the city walls, looking outside. Gu Qingshan came forward and greeted them. While they were talking, one of the cultivators suddenly said, "Look, it's coming." Everyone turned to look outside. A transparent membrane slowly manifested outside the city walls, covering the sky and the wilderness outside of Heaven Pillar City. Everyone silently waited. All of a sudden, an illusory world descended. People flowed like a tidal wave. Endless carriages, bright lights, all living things were flourishing. The entire world seemed to have been resurrected, displaying the prosperity of a long time ago. People were bustling with activity. Some were doing business and haggling, some were greeting each other, some were playing finger-guessing games in the tavern, and some were quarreling on the street. Some immediately took out their armor and started fighting on the street. There were all kinds of people. Gu Qingshan silently stared at the people dressed in ancient attire. He found that he couldn't hear anything. Fireworks were exploding in the sky, illuminating the darkness. An illusionary dragon slowly manifested, circling in the night sky. Gu Qingshan tilted his head and looked in another direction. On the other side of the city walls, a transparent barrier silently manifested. This barrier was still connecting heaven and earth, separating the bustling human world from the outside world. Another world manifested. Jagged, grotesque rocks, pale green flames reached all the way to the sky. On the barren land, countless wraiths rampaged, fighting, killing, and devouring the bodies of the defeated. Even further away, another transparent barrier manifested. A new illusory world manifested itself in front of the cultivator's eyes. More and more worlds appeared, dazzling everyone's eyes. The cultivators silently watched from the top of the city walls. All of a sudden, a beautiful woman flew out from the crowd of people in the night market and arrived outside the city walls. She stuck close to the thin barrier and smiled. "Fellow Tao Seekers, please come and have a chat." The cultivators stood still. Someone reminded her in a low voice, "Remember, do not go out, you won't be able to return if you do." Another person sighed. "Last time, fellow Tao Seeker Huang Ha." No one said anything else. To be able to cultivate to Yama King a realm, everyone here was a cultivator who was 1 in a million, having gone through many trials and tribulations, having seen all sorts of strange things. But the scene in front of them still caused them to feel a chill. Seeing how cautious everyone was, Gu Qingshan sent her inner sight into her thought sea and lightly wrapped it around the Devil King Warden Rod. The Devil King Warden Rod didn't budge. Seems like this woman isn't a dead soul. If she isn't a dead soul, then what are these entities? Gu Qingshan looked at the woman and muttered, "How interesting." Chapter 1192. Seeing that no one spoke, the woman stopped smiling and turned to leave. Everyone silently watched as she once again flew into the bustling market, stood in front of a purple-clothed man with a pair of horns on his head, and reported in a low voice. Gu Qingshan suddenly asked, "Fellow Tao Seekers, may I ask which fellow Tao Seeker Huang you were talking about just now was?" All the cultivators looked at a single person. The man replied, "Fellow Tao Seeker Huang came from my cultivation world. He was the one who came to face his Sumer Lord Realm tribulation last time. Where is he? Did he die during his tribulation?" Gu Qingshan asked. "How should I say this? Last time we were here to protect him during his tribulation, and then—" The cultivator had a fearful expression on his face as he pointed towards the night market. Gu Qingshan followed the direction he was pointing, only to see a man standing at a corner of the night market. Next to him was a table and a stove. The man was kneading dough, sweating profusely as he shouted something. Unfortunately, other than the woman just now, no one else's voice could be heard, so Gu Qingshan couldn't hear what he was shouting either. The man lifted the dough, shook it on the chopping board, stretched it out, then stuck it into the stove and stuck it on the wall. So he was making xiaobing. Fellow Tao Seeker Huang was confident in his cultivation, but as soon as he was invited into that world, he lost all of his strength and died on the spot, a cultivator explained. "We were just thinking about how to retrieve his body, but he suddenly stood up, went to a corner of the night market and began to sell xiaobing." Another cultivator sighed and said, "You didn't think of a way to wake him up?" Gu Qingshan asked. "We've tried everything, but he seems to have turned into a completely different person," the cultivator replied. Gu Qingshan looked at the man. A Mahasvara king, a realm cultivator, suddenly died, then came back to life. He forgot everything and only sold xiaobing in the night market. That can't be right. He's already dead, not even his soul is here. Otherwise, the Devil King Warden Rod would have connected the dead to Gu Qingshan's inner sight. Then, does this person still remember his previous identity? Gu Qingshan glanced at the human night market, then at the other worlds that were isolated by the barrier. The cultivation world, the wraith world, the technological world, the Azura world, the magic world, the savage world, the martial world, the beast king world, the card world, the angel world, the purgatory world, the wood world, the deep sea world, the lifeless world, the bewildering nest world, the heavenly immortal world, the myriad spirit world, the primordial world, the sound of light world, the ruins world, the artifacts spirit world, the molten fire world, the silent world, the dark world, and so on and so forth. Gu Qingshan looked at it for a while, but couldn't find any clues. In each world, the behavior of the living beings was consistent with their race's origins. This was not good, Gu Qingshan pondered. According to the other cultivators, in the last few thousand years, no one had ever crossed the Mount Sumeru tribulation. This time, it was Xie Daoling's turn to face her tribulation. Fortunately, Master wasn't an arrogant person, and he never pretended to have a high cultivation base. However, if he were to encounter such a situation on the heavenly pillar, no, I need to learn more about this world. It might be helpful for me to face my tribulation. While Gu Qingshan was thinking, the woman once again flew up from the night market and appeared in front of everyone. Through the barrier, she smiled and asked, "Everyone, do you have any business deals you want to make?" The cultivators all went silent. When Gu Qingshan was about to speak, the cultivator from before pulled on Gu Qingshan's sleeve and kindly told her, "Don't make any deals with them. Is it dangerous?" Gu Qingshan asked. The cultivator replied, "It's not that dangerous, it's just that they always take out some low-value items to exchange for our treasures. I'm afraid no one would be willing to make such a deal." Gu Qingshan pondered briefly, tapped her inventory bag, and took out a pile of spirit stones. He asked the woman, 3,000 spirit stones, what can I get from you?" Seeing the spirit stones, the woman's eyes glowed and replied, "Please wait a moment, fellow Tao Seeker." She turned around, took a basket, walked around the night market, took a few items from each stall and put them into the basket, then flew back. Please take a look, fellow Tao Seeker. You can pick anything you want from me for 3,000 spirit stones. Gu Qingshan looked at the basket. There were some snacks, water, cantaloupe, leaf fans, mooncakes, and other common things in the basket. Gu Qingshan thought of something and asked, "Can I have a xiaobing?" "Sure," the woman nodded, flew back into the night market, and found the cultivator named Huang. The cultivator named Huang took out a xiaobing and gave it to the woman. The woman flew back, stuck close to the barrier, and looked at Gu Qingshan. "Give me the xiaobing." Gu Qingshan threw the spirit stones out. As the spirit stones landed on the barrier, the woman used a hand seal to put them away. The woman then used another hand seal to give her the xiaobing. Gu Qingshan received the xiaobing. The xiaobing was still warm, giving off steam as if it had just come out of the oven. "Fellow Tao Seeker, is there anything else you need?" the woman asked expectantly. "Nothing, but there's something else. What exactly are you people? Where did you come from?" Gu Qingshan asked. The woman shook her head. "I don't know." Saying so, she took the spirit stones, flew back into the night market, and disappeared without a trace. Gu Qingshan felt a bit regretful. A line of glowing text appeared on the war god UI. Frowny face. You've used the iris technique. Time recollection. Due to the obstruction of the world barrier, your spell failed. Time recollection. Back then, Lin was much more powerful than Gu Qingshan, but she was still affected by this world technique. But since they were separated by two worlds, this technique couldn't be performed. Then there's no other way. Gu Qingshan weighed the xiaobing in her hand, then passed it to the cultivators behind her. "Fellow Tao Seeker, Huang's world must have its own rules and etiquette. Please take a look and see if fellow Tao Seeker Huang has set up a secret code here," he told everyone. The cultivators were surprised. A few moments later, the xiaobing was passed around in everyone's hands, then returned to Gu Qingshan's hand. Everyone was a bit dejected. A xiaobing was still a xiaobing. There wasn't a single piece of information hidden inside, nor were there any techniques or secret codes. "It seems fellow Tao Seeker Huang has truly died," someone sighed. Everyone nodded. Gu Qingshan thought briefly. There really wasn't any other information. Their first attempt at probing had failed. "Fellow Tao Seeker, do the other worlds also do business?" Gu Qingshan asked. A cultivator replied. "They do, but they're all about the same as before. It's impossible to exchange for anything useful from them." Gu Qingshan nodded. "Then I'll go take a look." The other cultivator tried to convince her. "They won't tell us what's going on here." Another cultivator followed up. "That's right, we've tried probing them before, but they'll only give us useless things. They might not even know what's going on." "Ah, all right. I'll take a look around and take a stroll." Saying so, Gu Qingshan followed the path on the city wall towards the east. He quickly went past the border between the two barriers. The next world on the other side of the city wall was no longer the human world, but the lava world. The lava world didn't have any civilization, only a few ignorant primitive flame spirits. Gu Qingshan went past this world, and continued to walk along the city wall. Ahead of him was the magic-type world. He chose a normal magic card and exchanged it for a memory stone from a mage. It was said that this memory stone recorded some ancient secrets of the magic-type world. Gu Qingshan took the memory stone and followed the mage's instructions to slowly read the contents inside. Lord A is Lord B's illegitimate son, Lord B's wife is Lord C's lover, Lord C and Lord D are actually siblings. Sure enough, ancient secret. Just as the cultivator said, this thing didn't explain where the magic-type world came from or why it appeared in Heaven Pillar World. Gu Qingshan silently put the memory stone away and continued forward. After going through the magic-type world, the savage world, the silent world, he arrived at the Wraith Realm. Thinking of something, Gu Qingshan suddenly stopped. While he was still, a great wraith slowly flew in front of him and invited him into the Wraith Realm. Gu Qingshan shook his head, indicating that he wouldn't go in, as he only wanted to do business. The great wraith then ran back, brought back a few severed limbs, and neatly arranged them in front of Gu Qingshan. This one is delicious, this one is also delicious, the one next to it is delicious. The great wraith drooled as he introduced his goods. Gu Qingshan crouched down, looked at the severed limbs with interest through the barrier. Are there any organs? He asked. The wraith was impressed and nodded. I didn't think you'd be a gourmet, there are. It turned around to prepare. Wait a minute, I want to eat something fresh, can you give me a living wraith? Gu Qingshan asked. Not a living one can't pass through the barrier, the wraith shook his head. Hearing that, Gu Qingshan felt a bit regretful. He took out a few plates of spirit cooking and placed them on the ground. My food contains various types of energy, I'll trade it with you, I said. Not a living one, the wraith replied. Then how about this, find me the freshest head from your food reserves. The fresher, the better, Gu Qingshan said. The great wraith looked down at Gu Qingshan's spirit cooking and shook his head. I'll have to try your food. Gu Qingshan directly handed him a plate. The wraith chanted an incantation, received the plate, and poured everything into his mouth. The taste is a bit strange, but it does contain a lot of energy, the wraith said with satisfaction. Gu Qingshan tapped her inventory bag, took out another 5 plates of spirit cooking, and placed them all on the ground. Now, please find me a head, Gu Qingshan said. The fresher the better? The wraith asked. Yes, not only does it have to be fresh, but it also has to live long enough. That way, I'll pay you more, Gu Qingshan replied. The great wraith nodded, turned around, and left. A few moments later, it grabbed an old wraith and came in front of Gu Qingshan. The old wraith kept spitting out green flames to attack the great wraith. The great wraith directly broke its head, passed through the barrier, and gave the head to Gu Qingshan. Fresh enough, the great wraith spat out. Gu Qingshan sighed and said, Now I know what a real wraith is. He gave the other party the spirit cooking, then received the old wraith's head from it. Through inner sight, Gu Qingshan could sense that this head's life had already passed away. But the head didn't completely stop working. At least the wraith's fangs were still opening and closing, trying to bite his hand. Gu Qingshan carefully held the head so that the head's eyes were facing him. I hope I can make it in time. Gu Qingshan silently prayed. Then, a time recollection, activate. In a split second, the world in front of Gu Qingshan completely collapsed, revealing nothing but emptiness. The emptiness only existed for a split second. A second later, another world abruptly unfolded from the void of space and appeared in front of Gu Qingshan. Heaven and earth collapsed. Clouds of smoke rose to the sky. The world was quickly collapsing. Countless screams of pain. The fleeing wraiths all fell to the ground one by one, exploding into a mist of blood. From the sky, a cold female voice resounded. The samsara world is only SOSO. Gu Qingshan looked up. He saw a woman of indescribable beauty. Behind her, countless stars were evolving, being born and destroyed, displaying her divine might and power. Gu Qingshan's heart skipped a beat. At the sacred ground of the 4 pillar gods, he had seen the past of the inner plane, as well as this woman. Indeed, she was the jade of infinite worlds, the master of the star river, the blessed one of the inner plane, the grand empress of the pantheon, Renedal. Chapter 1193. Gu Qingshan looked up at the pantheon empress in the sky. The world was slowly being destroyed. Everything was being destroyed. All the wraiths were being slaughtered. Stop! Gu Qingshan said. The shattered earth suddenly stopped. The clouds in the sky stopped moving. The wraith's body was like a blooming flower of blood that hadn't completely exploded yet. This wasn't time stopping. Gu Qingshan was simply controlling the time recollection technique to stop the events of the past at a certain point so that he could carefully observe them. He walked in front of one of the wraiths and carefully sensed it. He then took to the sky and circled around the entire world. Finally, he returned. That's enough, he said. The world once again fell into destruction and collapse. Gradually, the entire world turned into sand and dust that scattered into the space vortex. Renedal casually glanced at this world. Her gaze was focused on Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan immediately realized that he was now the old wraith. So there were still fish that escaped the net. Renedal raised one of her long, slender fingers and lightly tapped it. Darkness descended. Everything stopped at this point. Gu Qingshan exited from the time recollection technique. He realized that he was holding the evil spirit's head in his hands. His back was covered in a layer of cold sweat, and he could not help but gasp for breath. While inside the barrier, the great wraith had only just turned around and took its first step. Time. Only a split second had passed. Gu Qingshan dropped the head and sat down on the cold stone floor. He took out a gourd of spirit liquor and drank it all to calm himself down. It wasn't because of anything else, but because the power Renedal exuded was too terrifying. Just by looking at that scene, Gu Qingshan felt his soul being slightly wounded. He closed his eyes and went through everything he had just seen in his mind. Wait, Gu Qingshan muttered. The evil spirits in that world were too weak. Gu Qingshan had run into those masked fellows. Those fellows had already gathered 70% of the Wraith Realm's fragments, and even a mere servant was equipped with an incredibly powerful causality weapon. On the other hand, Renedal did not encounter any decent resistance throughout the entire process of destroying the world. From this, it could be deduced that the Wraith Realm she destroyed was only a fragment of the Wraith Realm. Fragment world. Gu Qingshan's gaze fell on the evil ghost's head not far away. This was strange. This guy should already be dead. The Wraith Fragment world had also been destroyed. Why would a Wraith Fragment world suddenly appear? This world only appeared at night. It thirsted for all living beings, thirsted for transactions, using bad things to exchange for powerful things. Gu Qingshan waved his hand and the head flew back into his hand. What exactly are you? He asked softly. The Wraith's eyes were wide open. Look at him. Motionless. Gu Qingshan lowered her head and continued to think. A destroyed world. It had once again manifested itself, appearing every night in Heaven Pillar World. There were many such worlds in the entire Heaven Pillar World. What exactly are they? All of a sudden, Gu Qingshan's left eyelid twitched. It was a world technique that was hidden inside his eye. There were two remnant world spirits there. They moved a bit as if to signal something. Gu Qingshan's mind flickered and abruptly stood up. So that's what it was. I understand now. He looked at the countless grotesque worlds outside the city wall, feeling an indescribable sense of shock and sorrow. Following his will, a line of glowing text appeared on the war god Ui Frownyface during the previous ritual of the Earth God. You had used up all of your prayers, unable to perform a second sacrificial dance here. Gu Qingshan didn't give up. He began to clap his hands, stomping his feet, lightly humming a tune. Although he didn't have any prayers, a sacrificial dance was still a sacrificial dance. It should be enough to show his identity. Sure enough, as he swayed, an indescribable entity from the void of space resonated with him. Another line of glowing text appeared on the war god Ui Frownyface. Attention, you are the host of the dance of the Earth God. Under the witness of a certain entity, you have made a promise with the destroyed worlds of the past to complete the sacrificial dance. You have the blessings of the past worlds. Then now, they who were hiding in Heaven Pillar World have sensed your identity. They have allowed you to see the truth of everything. Instantly, all the worlds and Heaven Pillar City disappeared. Another scene appeared in front of Gu Qingshan's eyes. Broken entities. Their bodies were large, their limbs long and slender, they had no faces, similar to humans. They were the remnant souls of their worlds. They were all worlds that had been destroyed by Renedal, leaving only a remnant of their souls that hid in Heaven Pillar World. They only dared to appear at night, using their power to connect with one another, desiring to obtain all power. Gu Qingshan understood. He muttered, That's why you actually hope for living beings to enter your worlds to prolong your existence. You hope to exchange undesirable things for powerful treasures to help you obtain a bit of power. You gathered here to stay warm, correct? The gigantic entities all nodded. They turned into countless sprites of light that danced around Gu Qingshan. They seemed to be in a hurry to express something. From probing to contact, then to mutual understanding. And now the attitude of the worlds had become a bit more intimate. Don't be hasty, Gu Qingshan's voice slowed down and asked, "What exactly is it? Tell me slowly." All the sprites of light gathered together and hovered by his ear, slowly uttering a few words. "Hurry, run, outside, there's a dragon, wait a minute." When you say outside, do you mean Heaven Pillar World? Gu Qingshan asked. All the sprites of light flew up, gathered in front of him, and formed a screen of light. Scenes slowly appeared on the screen. Legends say that it possessed a gigantic body, riding the clouds, lightning flashing, thunder rumbling. Every kind of majestic presence. One couldn't help but feel the urge to worship it. An azure dragon. It circled around Heaven Pillar World, circling back and forth. Gu Qingshan looked at the azure dragon. Gu Qingshan could clearly see each of its scales, each strand of its whiskers, even its expression. But Gu Qingshan couldn't sense it at all. It wasn't just him, none of the cultivators here, not even Shifu could sense it. Is this one of its abilities? The azure dragon had retracted all of its presence, and was silently cruising through the space vortex. It was like a calm and graceful cold-blooded assassin, silently waiting for its chance to strike. Gu Qingshan felt a chill crawling up his spine. The remnant souls' voices resounded again. At dawn we scatter, the barrier is gone, it will come, kill us all. Gu Qingshan understood. At night, the remnant souls of countless worlds would gather together to form a barrier that could take away the lives of living beings, so the azure dragon couldn't enter this world. At dawn, the remnant souls of the worlds would all go into hiding. At that time, the azure dragon wouldn't have to worry about anything. How strong could a dragon be? Back in Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace, the yellow dragon's remnant soul only glanced at him once and he died. Even though Gu Qingshan's strength was much stronger than before, he still felt a lingering sense of fear whenever he recalled what happened back then. The yellow dragon's remnant soul was already that powerful. This time, Gu Qingshan would have to face a complete azure dragon. "Thank you, I'll have to inform Shifu right away. We're going to climb the heaven-supporting pillar tonight," Gu Qingshan muttered. He took out all the spirit stones he had and tossed them outside the city. "I didn't bring a lot of items with energy. These spirit stones are the ones with the most energy, about a few 100,000 of them. I'll give them all to you," Gu Qingshan said. 700,000 spirit stones disappeared as soon as they were tossed out. "Thank you," a grateful voice resounded from the void of space. Gu Qingshan shook his head. "No need, take care, I'll protect Shifu while she faces her tribulation. I'll come back to chat with you when I have time." As he was about to leave, some of the sprites of light flew out and hovered in front of him. These sprites of light surrounded him and began to rotate at high speed. Lines of glowing text appeared on the war god UI frowny face. Numerous remnant souls of the cultivation world wish to impart the most advanced knowledge of their civilization to you. They have begun to connect to your thoughts. See, please prepare to receive the knowledge. Chapter 1194. Gu Qingshan stood still. From other people's point of view, he was simply blanking out. But if he was accepted by the world fragments, he would see a completely different scene. Countless sprites of light were circling around Gu Qingshan, constantly giving off faint white light that entered between Gu Qingshan's eyebrows. Gu Qingshan remained in a state of no thought, silently receiving the knowledge of the various cultivation-type worlds. Normally, cultivators would transmit knowledge through verbal communication, jade tags, and other methods. But through the transfer of knowledge between worlds, they would directly convert the knowledge that they deemed useful into enlightenment and infuse it into Gu Qing Shan's thought sea. This so-called enlightenment was akin to seeing the moon bloom and the flowers bloom. It was natural, without the need to think or ponder over it. One would be able to fully understand the principles behind it. And because Gu Qing Shan was a sword cultivator, the amount of swordsmanship knowledge he received from the various cultivation-type world fragments was also a lot higher. There were also other knowledge related to the elements, martial arts, secret arts, treasures, divination, talismans, formations, spirit cooking, smithing, pills, as well as the best of the best were all taught to Gu Qing Shan. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Gu Qing Shan opened his eyes. Swordsmanship, he murmured softly. In truth, some of the cultivation-type worlds among the world fragments were real worlds, not worlds created from the void of space, so they all had a complete Tao inheritance and profound swordsmanship. Frankly speaking, the path of a sword cultivator had always been difficult. Those who managed to become a sword saint were extremely rare, not to mention those who managed to reach solitary sword realm, and then break through to sword god. Even in the cultivation worlds there weren't a lot of people like that. Perhaps there were some sword cultivators who were extremely powerful, had a profound realm, and were practically invincible in the entire world, but ignoring the realm of cultivation, in terms of swordsmanship alone, they most likely hadn't reached the realm of sword god. The will of the world had directly converted the cultivation of the only two sword god powerhouses into enlightenment and imparted it to Gu Qing Shan. Comprehending these swordsmanship through the method of enlightenment, Gu Qing Shan's horizons were greatly broadened. Many of his thoughts that he hadn't been able to solve were confirmed, as well as a lot of problems that required practice and killing were also solved. Lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Yue. Your swordsmanship is rapidly improving. In the following time, you can enter or leave the state of enlightenment at any time. When you enter the state of enlightenment, the knowledge hidden in your sea of knowledge will become your own. Reminder: once you have gained enough swordsmanship knowledge, you will be able to unlock the enemy-killing swordsmanship, and learn the mysteries of the way of the sword within. Gu Qing Shan immediately understood. The enemy-killing sword technique was a sword technique that Xie Gu Hong truly chose from the bygone-era humanity's inheritance, which was later passed on to him. When he left the Age of Old, the Earth Creator left a lot of things in that era to prevent Gu Qing Shan from running into any problems while traveling through the River of Time. The enemy-killing sword technique was hidden inside the gold coin and brought back with it by Gu Qing Shan. After the Fairy of Time fused the silver star into the gold coin to form the complete coin of the earth, the enemy-killing sword technique was placed inside Gu Qing Shan's mind. Once his swordsmanship reached a certain level, he would be able to unlock this sword technique and learn its content. Other than that, through enlightenment, Gu Qing Shan also noticed something interesting: the issue of cultivation realms. Compared to other worlds, cultivators in cultivation-type worlds often had to face heaven's tribulations. There were a total of 21 stages, starting from Qi refinement all the way to Sumer Lord. The cultivators were not the only ones who found this a headache. The cultivators from other worlds also found this a headache when dealing with the cultivators from other worlds. Because regardless of whether it was communication or reception, each world had their own set of standards and specifications. But because there were so many realms of cultivators, even the worlds that roughly divided their strength felt a headache. When so many technological, magic-type, savage, and other worlds complained too much, the cultivation world also did some self-reflection. Finally, after much discussion, they came to a decision that couldn't be changed. Because before the Yama King or tribulation, cultivators were constantly filtered by the laws of the world. But starting from Yama King realm, every realm would be marked by the laws of the world. For example, Mahasvara King had 48 dependents, Sumer Lord had 120 followers, Star River Saints could manifest void seeds and manifest star-treasured trees. These realms represented the difference between cultivators and other professions. Regardless of whether or not other professions were used to it, cultivators would never change. Gu Qingshan exited his state of enlightenment. Being able to improve his swordsmanship was a good thing, but he had more important things to do right now. Everyone, he turned to the world fragments and asked, "Do you know why the Azure Dragon came to kill all the cultivators of this world?" The world fragments slowly fluttered and whispered in his ears, a killing intent seething. Gu Qingshan went silent. He had never seen the Azure Dragon before, nor could he imagine why it would want to kill the cultivators of this world. However, he had once summoned the 4 divine beasts of Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace to support him in the age of old, so he had seen the Yellow Dragon's true form. That dragon's strength should be close to Paragon Realm. When the divine race created all things, they definitely wouldn't allow any species to be stronger than themselves, so the Yellow Dragon's strength wasn't enough to represent the true dragon race. The Azure Dragon, he had seen it once just now, although it wasn't as powerful as Reneedle, it was still enough to make Gu Qingshan feel an intense sense of danger. Gu Qingshan pondered, then asked, "Do you know where it came from?" The whispers of the world resounded again, a wraith presence. Gu Qingshan understood everything. "So it came to kill me," he went silent. The Wraith Realm had fused with 70% of the Wraith Realm's fragments, so the living beings of this world had become unimaginably powerful. Even a mere servant was equipped with a mask that was guaranteed to hit, as well as a pair of causality law golden chopsticks. And this servant dared to directly persuade a Yama King Realm Sword Cultivator to surrender. If that's the case, what about the Wraith Realm's dragon? Just how powerful is it? Gu Qingshan went silent for a long time without saying anything. Xie Daoling was currently facing her tribulation. This Sumeru Lord Realm tribulation was extremely dangerous to begin with, and it had been many years since she last successfully faced it. Although Xie Daoling's strength wasn't something that normal cultivators of the same realm could compare to. But now, it wasn't just the Sumeru Lord Realm tribulation. There was also the Azure Dragon. Even Shifu couldn't detect the hidden Azure Dragon. Gu Qingshan sighed emotionally. Although the pillar to heaven was broken, it wasn't that hard to climb. The real hard part would be after reaching Mount Sumeru. But even if she reached Mount Sumeru, as long as I'm here, the Azure Dragon would still follow the pillar to heaven. At that time, not only would Shifu have to face the Sumeru Lord Realm tribulation, but he would also have to face the Azure Dragon. Even if we take a step back, if I run into danger, would Shifu really leave me behind? Gu Qingshan was a bit annoyed. Who would have thought that I would one day drag Shifu down, slapping his inventory bag? He took out everything he had. All of his technological products, the Strife Zone's coins, countless card fragments, all of his cultivation-type resources, as well as a few other spoils of war were all thrown into the air. As soon as they left his hand, they slowly disappeared. The grateful voices of the world fragments resounded from the void of space. Thank you, Gu Qingshan replied. "You're welcome. I have something I need to trouble you with, but I don't know if you can do it or not." "What is it?" the world fragments asked. "It's very simple, a small matter," Gu Qingshan smiled. At another location, Xie Daoling was meditating in the palace. "Strange, why do I feel a bit uneasy?" She opened her eyes and muttered. Rumble, rumble, the ground began to tremble. Xie Daoling took out a few coins and was about to perform a divination when Gu Qingshan came in from outside. "Shifu, I have something to report," Gu Qingshan spoke with a serious expression. Since her spirit sense was interrupted, Xie Daoling had no choice but to put the coins away and asked, "What is it?" "There's an issue with this world," Gu Qingshan replied. As soon as she said that, the night sky outside abruptly turned into day. It wasn't actually day, but rather the numerous illusory worlds outside the city were all giving off intense light. They were rapidly contracting and expanding, as if they were on the verge of collapsing at any moment. Xie Daoling was surprised. What's going on? Heaven Pillar World shouldn't have any issues. Gu Qingshan appeared worried and said, "This world might be destroyed soon, Shifu. How about we face the tribulation right now?" Xie Daoling threw the coins in her hand. Clink, 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 clink. The coins scattered all over the ground. Marsh destruction would, great offense. Treading on the path of destruction, ominous, without blame, Xie Daoling muttered. This was a great misfortune divination. She scowled. I can also feel it, the world is about to change, but I don't know what it is. Boom. The ground trembled even more violently. Shifu, the sooner we get to the Heaven Pillar and leave this world, there's no need to worry about this world, Gu Qingshan said. Xie Daoling stood up from her chair and solemnly said, "Very well, then let's face the tribulation." Gu Qingshan gave her a jade brick. "What's inside?" Xie Daoling asked in surprise. This disciple had a fortuitous encounter earlier and obtained scriptures from various cultivation worlds. "They're all inside," Gu Qingshan replied. Xie Daoling glanced at it and nodded. She smiled. "They're all good things, much better than what I obtained. Not only will they benefit me, but I can also bring them back to our world and use them as the world's embrace of inheritance." Gu Qingshan also smiled. "Shifu, as the price for obtaining these scriptures, I have no choice but to stop this tribulation and return to where I came from to do a few things." Xie Daoling looked at her. Gu Qingshan explained. "These scriptures come from the remnant wills of various worlds. I need to do a few things for them before I face the tribulation again. They'll help me at that time." "World wills?" Xie Daoling repeated. Gu Qingshan pointed at her left eye. Xie Daoling reached her hand out and lightly stroked it. "How miraculous, you actually had such a great opportunity, being able to connect with worlds. Even your eye contains a world. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes," Xie Daoling praised. Although it was unimaginable, Xie Daoling couldn't help but believe it. "Indeed," Gu Qingshan nodded. "This is indeed a great opportunity for me, so I won't be able to accompany Shifu during this tribulation," Xie Daoling replied. "It's fine, this kind of opportunity is extremely rare. Just do what you need to do." The spirit tortoise suddenly appeared from the void of space, squinting its eyes as it observed Gu Qingshan. It scoffed. "Humph, you brat, you don't care about your Shifu now that you have a chance. You should know that it's been a very long time since someone successfully crossed Mount Sumeru." "Say no more," Xie Daoling cut it off. "Qingshan's chance is unheard of. It's even more important than my tribulation," she spoke with concern. "Then your teacher will be climbing the heaven-supporting pillar. You should leave this world as soon as possible. The divination shows that this world is basically doomed." Gu Qingshan looked at her, softly said, "Shizuan, disciple cannot be by your side to protect. Disciple's heart is really uneasy. I only hope that Shizuan will turn misfortune into fortune, everything will go smoothly, and you will ascend Mount Meru. Don't worry, I'm leaving." Saying so, Xie Daoling's figure flashed and vanished from the palace. Before the spirit turtle left, it gave Gu Qingshan a disdainful glare. Immediately after, a clear cry that sounded like the cry of a phoenix resounded in the sky outside, soaring straight into the 9 heavens. Xie Daoling was gathering everyone who was preparing to face their tribulation. A few breaths later, all the cultivators gathered in the night sky. Under Xie Daoling's lead, they flew up to the pillar to heaven. The Sumeru Lord tribulation had officially begun. A few moments later, all the cultivators disappeared from this world. The only person left in Heaven Pillar World was Gu Qingshan. He silently stood in the middle of the palace. Chapter 1195. The ring was spinning in Gu Qingshan's hand, but he still didn't put it on. This was the ring of the abyss. Wearing it meant that there was a chance of death. The above is the information I have. After saying so, Gu Qingshan put it away. He yawned, sat down on the chair, and stretched his back. Finally gone, he muttered and tapped his inventory bag, wanting to take out something to drink. The inventory bag didn't react. It was now that Gu Qingshan remembered that everything she had was given to those world fragments. There was only a single azure pill left. This was the best healing pill. As for alcohol, there was none left. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but smack her lips in regret. 3 swords appeared from the void of space. Impressive, you were able to lure Linger away, the Earth Sword praised. Before meeting Gu Qingshan, it had always been following her, so it knew very well just how smart she was. Ha, I think it's going to be hard. I don't know when she'll react, Gu Qingshan commented. That's right, so if you want to do something, do it quickly, the Earth Sword agreed. Luo Bingli's voice suddenly came. Wait a minute, why do I feel like the two of you are very proud of being able to fool his Shifu? Of course, Gu Qingshan and the Earth Sword replied at the same time. Gu Qingshan continued. Shifu is a person who isn't afraid of anything, but she cares about us disciples the most, so even if something were to happen to us, she would be very worried. How do you know? Luo Bingli asked. There was a time when Xiao Lu and I went to a neighboring sect to steal their precious 100-year-old wine. Just as we were about to be discovered, Shifu suddenly appeared in the sky, saying that she had something to discuss with their sect master, successfully drawing the attention of everyone in that sect and allowing us to escape. Gu Qingshan continued. After my analysis, the butterflies, squirrels, and goats that Xiao Lu and I met on the way were probably all her. Luo Bingli sighed. Since she cares about you so much, you should. You can't tell her. She's in the middle of a tribulation, she'll be distracted if she's worried. Gu Qingshan waved her hand. The Earth Sword followed up. That's right, this was his own fault, and I think it's only a small matter. Small matter? Luo Bingli repeated. The Earth Sword replied. Just look at how relaxed he is. Although I don't know what he's going to do, from past experience, I don't think it'll be a big problem. Gu Qingshan smiled. There are people like that who would rush back to the sect to look for Shizuan after stirring up some trouble outside, but I'm not one of them. The Chao Yin sword let out a soft cry. It didn't know why it was chirping, but it had to chirp. This way, he could participate in the conversation, and it felt very cool. Luo Bingli sighed and asked, What do we do now? After daybreak, Azure Dragon will come in to kill you. Gu Qingshan stood up and walked outside. Let's go. Hurry up. The 3 flying swords followed closely behind. Gu Qingshan flew all the way to the top of the city wall. Hey everyone, I'm here! He called out to the countless strange worlds outside the city wall. The world fragments turned into sparkling specks of light, flew around him, circled around him, and greeted him softly. Gu Qingshan continued. Everyone, according to what I said before, please end today's nightlife and go to bed early. As a token of my apology, I'll bring you something nice when I have the chance to visit you again in the future. No questions, please. Be careful, the world fragments replied. Don't worry, it's nothing. Gu Qingshan waved his hand dismissively. The world fragments flew back. One after another, the illusory worlds slowly faded away from the city wall. At this point, Gu Qingshan asked Luo Bingli, What do you think makes me the most attractive? Luo Bingli replied, That depends on what you want to do. I want that dragon to see me as soon as he comes in. Gu Qingshan replied. Why? Luo Bingli asked. That way it will come to me directly. Gu Qingshan replied. Attractive, huh? You look quite good when you attack. Luo Bingli's voice became lower. Good idea, Gu Qingshan praised. At this point, the illusory worlds outside the city wall completely disappeared. The world fragments scattered and returned to their hiding places. The barrier that covered the entire world disappeared. The Azure Dragon who was drifting outside the world immediately sensed it. At the same time, Gu Qingshan drew his sword. He pointed at the sky and activated his sword seal. Sha, A blinding sword phantom soared to the sky, forming a blinding pillar of light that connected heaven and earth. The azure dragon's figure appeared from the clouds, then turned into a fully armored blue-clothed man and landed. He had a pair of horns on his head that stood straight up. His skin was covered in blue scales. His immense presence turned into a strong gust of wind that blew in all directions. The azure dragon. He looked at Gu Qingshan and smirked. Finding the target I wanted to kill as soon as I came in, that makes me quite happy. Gu Qingshan also smiled at the azure dragon and said, "Ha!" He spat out some blood. He had scattered quite a bit of his cultivation, causing his dantian to be wounded and his meridians to flow in reverse. This caused his cultivation to fall by quite a bit, no longer at the level where he could break through to Mahasvara King realm. There were cultivators who were afraid of failing their tribulation and chose to return to cultivate again. At that time, Gu Qingshan was very concerned. And now, he had chosen the best technique to scatter his cultivation from the various cultivation worlds, one that could help him disperse a bit of his cultivation while paying the smallest price possible. The laws of the void sensed it and manifested from every direction to envelop Gu Qingshan. "No!" The azure dragon roared in anger. But at the very next moment, Gu Qingshan turned into a streak of light and left this world. He no longer had the qualifications to break through to Mahasvara King realm, so he was immediately kicked out and left Heaven Pillar world. He would return to where he came from. "Do you think you can run away? I am the strongest dragon in the Wraith realm. I will soon catch up to you," the azure dragon unwillingly declared. He turned into a streak of lightning and chased after Gu Qingshan at an astonishing speed. The world, the space vortex, various entities, nothing could stop him. He was the azure dragon. Gu Qingshan appeared inside the ship. He chewed on the only azure clear pill he had and swallowed it. The power of the mystic dragon began to spread throughout his body, and in an instant, he had absorbed all the medicinal power of the pill. The light wounds on his meridians were slowly healing. Gu Qingshan stood still and continued to use spirit energy and magic dragon's power to speed up the healing of his meridians. A few dozen seconds later, the wounds on his meridians were mostly healed, and the azure clear pill's medicinal effects had also been fully consumed. Gu Qingshan ignored these minor wounds and instead focused on using magic dragon's power to increase his cultivation. A few dozen seconds later, his cultivation had finally recovered and reached the point where he could attempt to break through to the Mahasvara King realm again. A streak of lightning flashed and landed inside the ship. The azure-robed man laughed. "Ahahaha, keep running, even if you cross billions of worlds, I won't lose sight of you." The azure-robed man's body was boiling, apparently expending a great deal of power to the point that he was panting heavily as he spoke. However, this level of stamina consumption wouldn't affect the outcome of this pursuit. After all, for the azure dragon, killing a Yama King realm cultivator was as easy as flipping his hand. Gu Qingshan appeared impressed and clasped her fist. "I've heard that the Wraith realm has an azure dragon. Through his many battles against the Eternal Abyss, he had made great contributions through his immense strength. Even in the small-scale battles where the Wraith realm was defeated, the azure dragon had never failed. With the azure dragon's accomplishments, even the strongest monsters of the Abyss would raise their thumbs and praise him, but the Eternal Abyss had never been able to catch him, because not only is he powerful, but his speed is also the fastest in the Wraith realm." The azure-robed man silently listened, then coldly replied, "Flatterer, no matter what you say, I will dismember your body. Imprison your soul and bring it back. After all, you're nothing but a weak insect." "Nothing but an insect," Gu Qingshan muttered and sighed. "Then I'll have to say goodbye." He circulated his spirit energy. The heavens' tribulation had descended once again. In a split second, he disappeared from the ship. He had gone to face his Mahasvara King realm tribulation. He had once again entered the heavens' tribulation. The azure-robed man couldn't react in time. As soon as he understood the situation, he wanted to give chase. After all, the other party can't keep running back and forth like this. Wait a minute, running like this isn't a solution. The azure-robed man suddenly stopped. He stood still for a while, then slowly sat down on the chair. After all, the other party would have to return after facing the tribulation. Whether it was the Mahasvara king or Sumer Lord Realm cultivators, both of them would only be able to turn to dust in front of him. I can kill countless abyssal monsters without any help, let alone these puny cultivators? Smart indeed, but a weak insect. No matter how much he tries, he won't be able to escape the fate of death. The azure-robed man leaned back on the chair and scoffed. I'm going to rest for a bit. If you die in the heavens tribulation, that would be your fortune, otherwise, I'll definitely return here, at which point I'll eat you alive, leaving only your soul for Master to deal with. He closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. 1 breath, 2 breath, 3 breath. He suddenly felt something amiss. The azure-robed man stood up, his figure flashed, and appeared in the space vortex outside the ship. He suddenly noticed that there wasn't a single gap within the space vortex. The most powerful monsters of the eternal abyss were all gathered here. They had arrived without a sound, already hidden within the void of space, only slowly showing themselves after Gu Qingshan had left. The ship was completely surrounded by abyssal monsters. Even at an extremely faraway place, there were still powerful monsters of the eternal abyss. The entire space vortex had been sealed off by the power of the abyssal. Even the Wraith King wouldn't fare well in such a situation by itself. Oh no. I've been tricked. The azure-robed man muttered blankly. He suddenly sensed a unique meaning. Death was approaching. The Eternal Abyss had sent a group of the most powerful war meat grinders here just to cooperate with Gu Qingshan's operation and meticulously set up a place to completely surround and kill him. Even if his speed was the fastest in the Wraith realm, he wouldn't be able to escape from such an encirclement. Which meant this was indeed the Azure Dragon's time to die. One of the abyssal monsters displayed a rare mocking expression and spoke with a deafening voice. Are you going to flatter us first, weak insect? Chapter 1196. The Pillar to Heaven. There was a flight of stairs on top of the pillar that reached all the way to the clouds. According to ancient legends, whenever someone tried to climb this flight of stairs, the entire Heaven Pillar world would experience supernatural phenomena, heavenly music would play, and countless deities would come to witness this. That was a very long time ago. But now, never mind the deities, even the pillar to heaven had been broken. What followed was a fact that caused the cultivators to feel despair. The number of cultivators who could successfully advance to Sumer Lord Realm was becoming fewer and fewer. In the last few thousand years, the number of cultivators who managed to become Sumer Lord Realm was 0. The era of cultivators seemed to have entered a gradual decline. Under the shroud of night, Xie Dao Ling led the 11 cultivators to fly from the ground to the sky, following the broken pillar to heaven upwards. Not too long after, the cultivators saw a lake above the sea of clouds. The water of the lake reflected the clouds and sky, vast and boundless, without end in sight. Xie Dao Ling didn't say anything, only formed a hand seal and flew into the lake first. The others quickly followed. The cultivators fell into the lake and continued to descend until the light around them became dimmer and dimmer. Finally, the lake was completely dark, so dark that they couldn't see anything at all. A faint glimmer of light flickered. This glimmer was almost undetectable, but the cultivators had already released their inner sight to search for it. That direction, young Tortoise immediately called out. Xie Dao Ling's body moved and led the group towards the glimmer. A few moments later, the darkness around them turned bright. The light shone through the surface of the water, creating a ripple of light. The lake water became clearer and clearer. The group leapt out of the water. The lake was vast and boundless, there was no wind or mist around, not a single thing could be seen in the sky. Everyone looked at Xie Dao Ling with complicated expressions and a bit of anxiety. No one knew what would happen to them next. Indeed, to be able to cultivate to their current realm, they were all combatants with firm minds, great willpower, and great awareness. But no one had ever successfully faced their tribulation in the last few thousand years. Anyone in their position would be doubtful. Especially in the last few hundred years, very few people were willing to face the Mahasvara king or realm tribulation anymore. This was because the people who came were basically all dead and gone. Only a few lucky ones were able to regress their realm and return with their lives. Even so, he had to recuperate for hundreds of years before he could gradually recover. Gu Qingshan had used the most advanced realm reversion technique, which was why she was only lightly wounded. The technique to reverse one's cultivation level came from a broken cultivation world and was long lost. If it weren't for the fact that Gu Qingshan was the inheritor of the world sacrifice and could communicate with the will of the world fragment, she probably wouldn't have been able to obtain this technique. In addition, Gu Qingshan also had the power of the magic dragon. After retreating for a while, he immediately released the enormous power of the magic dragon, allowing himself to return to his peak state before entering the heavenly tribulation again. The immortal lake of inversion has passed, Sect Master Xie, a cultivator reminded him in a small voice. Xie Dao Ling nodded. She looked in a certain direction and couldn't help sizing it up. What a brilliant lapis lazuli mountain, Xie Dao Ling sighed. Everyone looked over, but they saw nothing. Sumer Mountain was a mountain of the laws of heaven and earth. Only great cultivators who faced their Sumer Lord realm tribulation could see it. A cultivator praised, "Seeing Sumer Mountain with one's eyes, from now on immortals and mortals will be separated. I wonder when we'll be able to reach this step." Everyone went silent. The Sumer Lord realm tribulation and the Mahasvara king realm tribulation were linked. If no cultivator could break through the Sumer Lord realm tribulation, then no one could break through the Mahasvara king realm tribulation and become a Mahasvara king realm tribulation. Xie Dao Ling watched for a while, without saying anything. The water of the lake began to boil. A gigantic creature was quickly swimming through the lake, approaching them from afar. A few moments later, a monster crawled out from the water. It was 5 stories tall, with a lion head, antlers, and dragon scales all over its body. As soon as it appeared, someone exclaimed in shock, "A Qilin!" The Qilin was an ancient divine beast that had already gone extinct in the infinite worlds. Everyone remained cautious while greedily looking at the Qilin's appearance. This was a legendary divine beast. The Qilin looked at Xie Dao Ling and spoke in human language. "Who is facing the tribulation?" "Bai Hua sect," Xie Dao Ling. "Very well, follow me into the lapis lazuli world." "Wait," the Qilin stopped and asked again. "Is there something else? Do you want to regress your cultivation and give up on this tribulation?" "That is not the case," Xie Dao Ling casually replied. "I still need to wait for another person to arrive before I can face the tribulation." "Who are you waiting for?" "My disciple, Gu Qingshan, at another location." Gu Qingshan returned to Heaven Pillar World, flew through the wilderness, and returned to the city wall. "Ah," he sighed deeply. "Ah," the earth sword let out a heavy woo-woo sound. "What?" Luo Bingli doubtfully asked. Neither man nor sword answered. Luo Bingli could only follow their gazes. On the city wall, a beautiful bird was sitting on the roof of a building, inadvertently looking at them. Gu Qingshan hurriedly clasped her fist towards the bird. "Shifu, I have some personal matters to attend to. I originally didn't want to disturb your tribulation." The bird squinted its eyes and asked, "Who bullied you?" "It's not that kind of thing," Gu Qingshan slowly replied. "Someone was bored out of his mind and came to provoke me. I just showed him the road to Huangquan." The bird's presence faded and sighed. "That is how our Baihua sect should be. If Xiao Lu could be like you, I would be assured." "I'll talk to him later," Gu Qingshan said. Are you still coming to face the tribulation this time? The bird asked. Gu Qingshan awkwardly replied, Ah, I still have some loose ends to take care of. How about you go first, Shifu? I'll be right there. Do you want Shifu to help you with your own matters? The bird asked. No need, I'll be done very quickly, Gu Qingshan replied. I'll wait for you. After saying so, the bird disappeared. This clone had returned to Xie Daoling's side. Gu Qingshan stood still, shielding her eyes with her hand as she looked up at the sky. They should be here soon, they aren't as fast as the Azure Dragon, but they should be able to get through. While she spoke, several dozen black dots appeared in the sky. Boom! The black dots all descended, completely surrounding the section of the city wall where Gu Qingshan was. Abyssal monsters. These ferocious monsters were fully armed, exuding a terrifying presence. One of the monsters spoke with a low, muffled voice. Please take a look, Master of Order. The dozens of monsters raised their hands at the same time, giving off a gray glow. This glow manifested into strings in the air, forming a cage. Inside the cage, a blue-clothed man was covered in wounds, his hands and feet bound by the gray glow, unable to move at all. The Azure Dragon. He was already at the brink of death, his life like a candle in the wind, about to go out at any moment. Even so, as soon as he saw Gu Qingshan, he began to struggle intensely. You thief! You're too treacherous! You're not a true warrior! You're even more of a wraith than a wraith. The Wraith realm will definitely cut you to pieces. The Azure Dragon roared in frenzy. He had never felt so aggrieved before. Gu Qingshan tilted his head in thought, then replied, That's not true. The Azure Dragon froze. What did you say? Despite his rage, he couldn't help but ask. Gu Qingshan raised a finger and replied, If you think I'm even more of a wraith than a wraith, then how can the Wraith realm cut me to pieces? The Azure Dragon coldly spoke. Brat, with your meager strength don't. Gu Qingshan cut him off. I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. Strands of black aura exuded from his body and entered the cage. The power of Magic Dragon's bloodline. With the help of the living being's sacrificial dance, Gu Qingshan had gained full control of Magic Dragon's power, so she was naturally able to use this unique power. The Azure Dragon was slowly being corroded by the power of Magic Dragon's bloodline. This is such power! He knelt on the ground, trembling as he received the power of Magic Dragon's bloodline, muttering in surprise. A few moments later, the Azure Dragon understood. You gave me this power in order to control me and make me work for you. He narrowed his eyes and asked. First he beat me into a sorry state, then he bestowed me power. This is the classic example of giving a jujube for every hit. Seems like this brat understands the value of the dragon race, as well as how much support the dragon race can provide. Among the countless worlds, having a dragon to fight for you has always been the dream of many ambitious people. This brat wants me to follow him and work for him with my life. The Azure Dragon understood. However, this idea is too naive. Does he really think everyone will listen to his orders? Become his subordinate? I'll definitely agree to him first, even if I have to put various seals on myself, even if I have to sign various contracts, it doesn't matter. When my master comes later, he'll definitely be able to undo those things. What I need to do is first feign civility, then provide my master with the whereabouts of this Huang Quan Devil King. The Azure Dragon instantly confirmed what he needed to do. Work for me? You have such an idea? Gu Qingshan asked, a bit surprised. The Azure Dragon nodded. Your wisdom is truly admirable. I'm willing to sign any contract with you, even if you put seals on my soul. I'll listen to your orders and be at your beck and call. As long as you spare my life. Gu Qingshan paused. He appeared troubled and finally said, About that? I'm sorry, it seems I'll have to explain a bit. Speaking of which, do you know of a certain cooking method called eating more than one fish? The Azure Dragon froze and shook his head. I don't know what you're talking about. Gu Qingshan cleared his throat, then slowly explained. It's like this: for a fish, you can actually use the flesh to make sashimi, the fish body and other spices to make soup, while the fish head can be made into steamed chili pepper fish head by adding a bit of chili and pepper. Actually, I prefer the fish head to be braised and the fish body to be steamed. This is how I usually like to make saltwater. In this case, the whole fish will be finished. It won't be wasted at all. And so, Gu Qing-shan drew her sword and lightly swung it at the cage. The azure dragon was already on the brink of death, so his power was at its weakest, so he naturally couldn't resist such an attack. Sha! A head flew up. Gu Qing-shan sheathed her sword. The head fell to the ground, but it was still staring at Gu Qing-shan with a confused expression. It really couldn't understand what Gu Qing-shan was thinking. He died with his eyes wide open. Gu Qing-shan sighed and could only explain, "I'm sorry, I don't usually make friends with my enemies, and I'm not so naive as to think that I can make them my subordinates. I usually kill them as soon as I can. Only when I run into a worthy enemy would I use my brain to think, like eating more than one fish and not waste anything." As soon as she said so, a few lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Ui frowny face. "You've killed a magic dragon's bloodline descendant. The power of this magic dragon's bloodline descendant will be completely devoured by you as the magic dragon. You've killed a mythical creature, Azure Dragon. This battle has been judged as a battle above your level. You'll receive the corresponding soul points. Calculating soul points." Chapter 1197. The Azure Dragon's head fell to the ground, carefully picked up by an abyssal monster. According to the agreement, the dragon's body and soul belonged to the abyss. It looked at Gu Qing-shan and cautiously said. Gu Qing-shan shrugged. Of course, the abyssal monster sighed in relief. "Let's go with a single order." All the abyssal monsters leapt into the air and flew through the sky. Gu Qing-shan waited for a few moments before abruptly kneeling on the ground. "Arg!" He couldn't help but roar. An azure figure and a black figure were entangling behind him, exuding terrifying power. Lines of glowing text were quickly being refreshed on the war god Ui frowny face. "Although you can be considered a slumbering magic dragon, the amount of power you absorbed this time was too great. You will need to endure extreme pain for 1 minute in order to store all of it and slowly digest it later." Indeed, the azure dragon was heavily wounded and on the verge of death, but as long as he was treated, he would quickly recover. He was a rare and powerful dragon of the Wraith realm. If he wasn't so weak, he would probably have a way to resist the magic dragon's bloodline. Since Gu Qing-shan had devoured his power, it was already a miracle that he didn't explode. Fortunately, he had already converted quite a bit of the magic dragon's power to be able to do this. Although you have the identity of an earth god, you are currently still a mortal. Because of that, this was a full-fledged kill above your level. The war god Ui will absorb all soul points from the azure dragon's body. You've obtained 6 million soul points. 6 million. Gu Qing-shan was still in extreme pain, but seeing this number, she felt assured. Lines of glowing text were still popping up on the war god Ui frowny face. "You are currently using the magic dragon's bloodline to devour the power of the mythical creature, Azure Dragon. The power of that existence is too great, so it will be used as a reserve for you to slowly absorb during your daily life." A special reminder: the Azure Dragon's main attack abilities have all been stored as power reserves. Only a few special abilities are left. You can choose one of these special abilities and turn it into your own ability, or use the power of the magic dragon to devour all of them to replace your magic dragon bloodline ability. Attention! The magic dragon is a super soul armament created by the bygone era humans. If you choose to consume it, you will lose the power of the magic dragon's bloodline and replace it with an unknown new ability. Gu Qing-shan resolutely said, "No, there is no need to devour it." What a joke! Gu Qing-shan sometimes even felt that the magic dragon's bloodline power was the pinnacle of the bygone era humanity's work. The release of the magic dragon's bloodline power actually required a relatively long period of time. It was best to wait for those who had obtained the power of the magic dragon's bloodline power to mature before harvesting them. Using this power in battle would immediately bring intense pain and torture to the enemy. Furthermore, after killing the enemy, he would be able to absorb their power. This ability was similar to the fable. Those who fight against the evil dragon will eventually become the evil dragon. But in the midst of the apocalypse, where the infinite worlds are constantly being destroyed, who cares what you are? Of course, especially powerful enemies. For example, the Azure Dragon in its perfect state would have a way to stop the corrosion of this power. On the War God UI, lines of glowing text flashed and refreshed frowny face. You've given up on devouring, instead choosing to obtain a special ability and turn it into a thaumaturgy. Please choose one of the following special abilities and turn it into your thaumaturgy. First, Dragon Centipede. Dragon Centipede. Enemies struck by you will definitely be sent flying. The second, Azure Dragon Scale Shield. Azure Dragon Scale Shield. You can use the Azure Shadow Shield once every 5 minutes to block the majority of attacks, allowing yourself to only receive 30% of the damage. Third, Leap of Source Stream. Origin Flow Leap. Directly traverse the void of space, moving at 2000% speed, requires a certain amount of soul points. Attention! Cannot attack while moving, otherwise the movement will be cancelled. Fourth, Azure Dragon Shadow Hex Binding. Azure Dragon Shadow Hex Binding. While conversing with an enemy, the incantation will manifest into an undetectable Azure Dragon Shadow Shackle that binds the enemy's body, slowing down their movement and attack speed. The effect is directly proportional to the length of your conversation. At this point, Gu Qingshan's pain slowly subsided. Reading through these abilities, he slowly appeared surprised. Dragon Centipede and Azure Dragon Scale Shield. These two special abilities are quite decent. The third special ability is even more impressive. Origin Flow Leap. This was the Azure Dragon's foundation, capable of rapidly traversing through the void of space, making it impossible for anyone to catch up to it. The reason why it was able to chase me all the way from Heaven Pillar World all the way to the Eternal Abyss was because of this ability. As for the Azure Dragon Shadow Hex Binding, this ability gave Gu Qingshan a strange feeling. He suddenly came to a realization. The Azure Dragon had been talking to me ever since it descended from the sky, so it was actually using this binding hex. As long as it's talking to someone, it's basically using its ability. The Azure Dragon is countless times stronger than I am, but it's still acting so cautiously in battle. Or rather, sly. This is truly impressive. In truth, both sides had trump cards that the other couldn't see through, but Gu Qingshan's trump card was borrowed from the Law of Tribulation, the power of the Magic Dragon, and the army of the Eternal Scar Abyss. Otherwise, it's hard to say who would live and who would die. This was the unpredictability of battles within the infinite worlds. Until the very last moment, no one would know what the other side's trump card was. No one would know if they could win or not. Gu Qingshan sighed in relief, feeling a bit of lingering fear. Who would have thought that such a powerful Azure Dragon would be such a sly old fox? He paused for a second. That can't be right. This ability seems to be very suitable for me. Gu Qingshan's gaze fell onto the War God UI, moving between Origin Flow Leap and Azure Dragon Shadow Hex Binding. The War God UI's voice came. Please select the Azure Dragon ability you wish to convert within 1 minute. After that time is up, the laws that make up these abilities will collapse and will no longer be able to be absorbed. Gu Qingshan finally stopped hesitating. I choose Azure Dragon Shadow Hex Binding, are you sure? I'm sure. Gu Qingshan clenched his teeth. The War God UI replied, currently absorbing the above unique abilities and converting them into your thaumaturgy. Please wait for 10 minutes. Gu Qingshan slowly stood up. The pain on his body slowly disappeared. An abundant amount of power continuously appeared inside his body. This was the power reserve created from the combination of Magic Dragon's power and Azure Dragon's power. From now on, Gu Qingshan would be growing stronger at every moment. At the same time, he was also obtaining a unique power from the Azure Dragon. Truly, killing a single dragon would bring countless benefit. Magic Dragon, Azure Dragon, will there be more dragons after that? While looking forward to it, Gu Qingshan replied, "There's no need to wait, just notify me when the time is up. I need to catch up to Shifu and the others." As soon as he finished speaking, his body moved and he soared into the sky. As he flew into the sky, he saw another bird. The bird lightly flapped its wings and landed on his shoulder. Xie Daoling's voice came. "This way, dive into the immortal lake of inversion." Gu Qingshan leapt out of the water and appeared in front of everyone. "Excuse me, I have some private matters to attend to," he smiled and clasped his fist to everyone. Everyone clasped their fists to return the greeting, without any impatience on their faces. This youngster was Sect Master Xie's disciple. Between the two of them, one came to face his Sumer Lord Realm Tribulation, while the other came to face his Mahasvara King Realm Tribulation. It was clear how powerful their sect was. Befriending such a person was the best choice. The Qilin's voice resounded. "Very well, everyone has arrived. Would you like to begin climbing Mount Sumeru now?" Xie Daoling nodded and replied, "Let's begin." The Qilin leapt into the sky and turned into a transparent phantom that gave off a 5-colored glow. The phantom slowly became solid. It was a Qilin 5-colored mountain suppressing lock that was 15 meters tall and 20 meters wide. The lock pointed at Xie Daoling. "Open, mountain, gate!" The Qilin's heavy roar resounded across the void of space. The entire world parted in 2 directions. A translucent, glassy divine mountain that reached the heavens appeared before everyone's eyes. Everyone's hearts were filled with shock. The divine beast Qilin's voice resounded again. "The divine mountain is clear, pure and untainted, formed from the accumulation of countless worlds of pure bliss." But after a long time, a few worlds on top of the divine mountain had already fallen into ruin following its voice. The glass-like divine mountain slowly turned gray. The entire mountain was tainted by a gloomy hue, exuding a sense of destruction and decay. "My God! No wonder no one managed to face their tribulation again," someone exclaimed in shock. Another person pointed at the divine mountain and trembled. "When I came here a few hundred years ago, the divine mountain wasn't like this, but now almost all the worlds on top of the divine mountain have been destroyed. How could they possibly face the tribulation?" From the bottom of the mountain to the top, every step represents destruction. Difficult, difficult, difficult. Another cultivator muttered to himself and sighed repeatedly. He directly used a scripture to reverse his spirit energy and struck his dantian. Everyone only saw him spit up some blood. In a split second, his figure disappeared from the tribulation. This person had directly regressed his cultivation and returned to his cultivation world. The Qilin's voice resounded again. "Xie Daoling, you must pass through the destroyed worlds one after another, sweeping away the filth along the way for the divine mountain. Only then will you become a Sumeru Lord." Xie Daoling stood with her hands clasped behind her back, silently watching the pitch-black divine mountain without saying anything. Gu Qingshan came up behind her and whispered, "Don't worry Shifu, I'm familiar with this. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.